Hello, Mom Liz. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Doing all right. How old are you, please?
28? I've been up
28.
here before.
And you're looking to co-host?
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
Yeah, I was the A-race lesbian, but then I changed my name.
Oh, okay. Yes, I remember you now. Okay. When people change their names, it throws me off so much.
Yeah, and I changed my profile picture at the same time, so people were like, do I even know you?
Thank you, Veronica. How you doing today, W. Iran?
Oh, you can just say CC.
CC. I don't know if I'm saying if I'm reading your name.
It's WLR.
WLR. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So CC, how old are you, please? Oh shit, no, I got the hiccups.
I'm 18.
What year were you born?
2005.
18, 2005. Fantastic. And am I a lesbian?
I mean, if you identify as a woman, yes. My question is, for like non-binary people, why don't you just make up like a better word to describe them if they're not a woman loving another woman? You know, isn't there like another word they can use instead of lesbian?
I mean, there is trixic, but some people don't feel like that works for them. I personally don't feel like it's a label that works for me as a non-binary A-race lesbian.
So, but by definition, wouldn't that be like contradicting like how you identify yourself and view yourself?
Not really, no. You know the white flag that's in the middle of the lesbian flag? Like the little white strip?
Yeah.
That specifically represents gender non-conformity and like stuff like that. It's inclusive of non-binary people.
Yeah, my whole thing is just like that definition to a majority of people, wouldn't that definition reinforce like women loving other women? Like, why wouldn't you say like, oh, I'm gay or I'm bisexual or like a different definition? Because I feel like I've heard from like a few of like my lesbian friends, they're like, I don't like how the definition's being changed because it feels like it's like this was our word, because a long time people would be like, oh, I'm gay instead of saying lesbian because lesbian was viewed as like a negative thing. So wouldn't it just be easier to use a different word that properly defines you or make a new word that properly defines you?
I just don't see harm in including non-binary people in being a lesbian.
No, I don't either see any harm, but like I feel like for a lot of people, wouldn't it's the definition? It's just like the definition, and then the other part, like a lot of people.
I mean,
might
the term lesbian very specifically labels the connection between like how I feel about women and my gender. Like it describes it perfectly for me. I don't need another label.
So what's the definition? Like the newer definition that they changed it to, or the older definition?
The definition I use is non-man loving non-man.
But I mean, okay, I guess, but that's just my whole thing. Like, if we're looking at like the older thing, wouldn't it? I don't know. Just usually when people say lesbian, I'm like, oh, two women in a relationship.
I mean, if I was in a relationship with a woman and I was going out on dates, everyone is going to see two women going on dates. They're not going to be like, oh, that's a non-binary person. They're not going to see that.
I mean, I don't know. A lot of people would probably just be like, oh, two people. But like, it's because I'm trying to understand, because I like hearing different points of views. But like, in my head, I feel like the gap isn't connecting right now, and I really want it to, so I can understand your point better. Because I know
for you? Like, what are you finding difficult about this?
By like the old definition and the definition most people use, it's a woman loving another woman.
Do you think it's unlikely for a lesbian to be attracted to non-binary people?
No, I don't think it's unlikely, but like, isn't it based on like gender rather than sex? So like, you could be attracted to a non-binary person, but they might not have.
I'm curious about that. I wonder if there's numbers about
a different sex, like then like the cisgendered, like they could be like a 9. So like that's my. I'm missing it because I'm not like I want to understand, but like maybe lesbian's not the right word if you aren't. I'm trying to understand. I really am, but I just feel like it's not. Wouldn't it be based off gender? And if you're non-binary, you wouldn't be male or female. So wouldn't the person liking you be something to like be like not a lesbian then? Because then you're reinforcing like non-binary people are a certain gender. Like, wouldn't you just say like a different thing?
Well, see, my concern here is like if we have someone who's assigned female at birth, identifies as a woman, identifies as a lesbian, and they find themselves attracted to a non-binary person, does that invalidate their lesbianism? The fact that they're a lesbian?
I mean, you know, if like let's say like someone who considers himself lesbian dated a man, would they still be a lesbian? Like just dated someone who's a man and identifies as a man.
I mean, probably. Dating doesn't necessarily mean you're attracted to them, and lesbians can date people and not know they're lesbians. And then you have people who are married and they're like, oh, I'm a lesbian, because they didn't know till they got married.
I'm saying like if you identify as a lesbian and you date someone who's a man who identifies as a man, what would you be then? Would you still be a lesbian or would you be something else?
I mean, it's about attraction, not dating. And some people date men before they realize they're lesbians. So they could be dating and find out they're a lesbian. They would still be a lesbian.
No, but that's why I said someone who identifies as a lesbian, who is dating someone who identifies as a man. How would that be? Like you said, dating doesn't equal attraction.
It's not uncommon for gay men and for gay women to date the opposite sex. Not uncommon at all. It doesn't make them not a lesbian, not gay.
But wouldn't that just be a different definition? Like, wouldn't that just be a different label for them? That's what I'm trying to understand, because, like, I think this is all super subjective.
The person could be exploring themselves, or they could be a victim of compulsive heterosexuality.
What is that?
It's when queer people are pressured into being in hetero relationships.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a thing. But
okay, compulsory. Thank you, little baby choices. Compulsory.
Yeah, but I just feel like I feel like the definition compared to like, I feel like, yeah, obviously the definition is subjective. Everything is subjective in life. But like, I feel like what like I'm asking is, why would you identify with a gender-related term if it doesn't properly fit your gender?
Sorry, what was the question?
Why would you non-binary people, right? Why would you identify with like a gendered term if it doesn't like fit your gender? Because I'm talking about the older definition because I know they recently changed it. But like, woman loving another woman, right? You identify as a woman and you love other women, so you'd be a lesbian. But if you're non-binary, you're not a woman, but you're also not a man. Wouldn't that just be something else then, and not a lesbian?
Yeah, non-binary genders are separate genders. They're not men or women.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Right. Yeah.
So you wouldn't be.
This is why my definition of lesbian is a woman or non-binary person who's attracted to women or non-binary people.
So
I'm still concerned about what if someone who's assigned female at birth, identifies as a woman, is a lesbian, but finds themselves attracted to a non-binary person. Does that invalidate their the fact that they are a lesbian?
if they're like actively pursuing them or just like attracted to them, because you can be attracted to someone and not be sexual.
I would agree with that. Yeah, genuinely interested in this person.
So like looking to like proceed with a relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, no, wouldn't you just be like bi or pan at that point? Because this is also confusing to me. Because like, if I'm straight, right? I'm in a relationship with a man, and I go on to date a woman, I would no longer consider myself straight because I wouldn't be. I would have attraction and like physical attraction and like attraction to the person wanting to pursue a relationship with them. I wouldn't be a straight person anymore. I'd be something else.
I didn't fully follow. Sorry.
So like if I'm straight, right? I'm in a relationship with a man. If I go on to date a woman, I still wouldn't be straight. I would be something else. I would have either I'd have a different label.
But wouldn't it be on you to figure out what label you feel most comfortable using?
I mean, a lot of people like don't believe in labels. So like I'm just confused cuz like my whole point is like aren't labels like change at any time? Why does the certain label matter so much? Like, you know, if you're
It's a label that matters to people. People are very, very attached to their labels sometimes.
well, I guess I could understand that, but like by the definition, wouldn't you just be not a lesbian? If you're like so like if let's say you dated a man, wouldn't you just be something else?
I just got a phone call. I did not hear a word that was said. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. So, let's say like, let's say I identified as lesbian, right?
Okay, you identify as lesbian.
And I go on to date a man.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be a lesbian anymore.
Person, and you want to be with this person?
What?
As in, you're genuinely interested in this person, and you want to be with this person?
Yes.
Yeah, you would not be a lesbian then.
But if I went on to date a non-binary person, what would I be then?
Lesbian, because my definition would be women or non-binary people attracted to women or non-binary people.
But didn't that definition recently change?
It's an inclusive definition, sure. The definitions do evolve over time.
Now, do you think because that
Doesn't go
definition...
away, new definitions are added on top. It's how that kind of how things go with definitions. Old definitions don't get erased; just new ones get added. Think of the big hearts. I don't see why it's so important to exclude non-binary people from being a lesbian, from being gay.
No, it's not important. I'm just...
I'm fighting pretty hard for it. I mean, like Momless Child said earlier, that a trixic is a thing, but some non-binary people don't identify with trixic.
No, I don't think
explaining
it's a
what
problem.
trixic is every time is a bit exhausting because nobody knows what it is.
That's another good point. Yeah, I mean, people know what a lesbian is. People have no idea what trixic is.
No, but like I don't think it's like the biggest deal, but I'm just trying to understand the logic because because I'm looking at the old definition because a lot of people still resonate with that one. Wouldn't you just rather have like your own definition if you like women, but you also like non-binary people, but you don't like men? You know,
I have no data to back this, and my efforts to Google it failed. But I would bet a significant portion of women who are assigned female at birth but are lesbians are still attracted to non-binary people. I would bet
yeah, I'm a woman who's dating a man, but I can still be attracted to women. That doesn't automatically make me like a certain type of way. You know, like I'm failing to understand why like this one definition is the end all be all for people. Like there could be like there should just be like other definitions to include it.
The other definitions are still there. Woman loving women is still there.
Yeah, wouldn't that just be
Well, so it's
lesbian?
not the end all be all. People use which definition and which label they feel is most comfortable with them. So some are going to use lesbian, some are not going to use a label at all, and others are going to use stuff like queer. It's all dependent on the person and what they feel best with.
Yeah, but my whole point is what it comes back to. I just feel like this is like how I perceive it. As like, if you were non-binary, why would you want a typically gendered term to be associated with you when you don't identify within that gender?
I can't answer on behalf of non-binary people as I'm not non-binary.
Have you met women? They're amazing.
Yeah, but why would you? Yeah, you can. No one's telling you not to like women. Women are amazing. I fully agree.
And lesbian, for me, fully encompasses how amazing I think women are. Women are amazing. They're incredible. I love them.
Cece, again, coming out is something that we basically have to do over and over and over and over and over and over and over. It gets quite exhausting. And adding the word trixic to that, like, if someone identifies as trixic, great, that's fantastic, awesome, great. But now, on top of having to come out every time you meet a new person, you also have to explain what trixic means every single time. It gets exhausting. It's easier to just say lesbian sometimes. Is that not?
No, I understand that.
Is that harmful?
You
Is
shouldn't.
that something that would be hurtful? Like, I mean that genuinely. Would that be harmful? I don't feel it was. I am part of the lesbian community. I don't feel that would be harmful.
I don't think it's harmful at all. That's not my point. I'm just trying to understand, like, why wouldn't you use a different definition? I understand if you think that applies to you, but like,
We have another definition. It's trixic. I just found out about that.
yeah, I know, but like, and also like you said, like having to come out every single time. I understand that could possibly be difficult because it just seems kind of repetitive and annoying. So like, that makes sense, but why don't you just say the other definition? Like, if you just educate people, because the problem is if you don't want to
Educating
explain,
someone every single time.
you don't need to tell someone your sexuality every single time you meet them. I don't tell people I'm straight every single time I meet them.
My parents still can't use my new name. I don't think they're going to be able to wrap their head around trixic. Like, just a new name is a bit confusing for them.
People are seriously struggling just to accept the idea that non-binary people exist right now.
I mean, I'm on a college campus, so like, there's a lot of people in my classes who are non-binary.
That's awesome. I'm happy for that.
I
I think our future generations are in a great place. But outside of college campuses, which is where the majority of society is, non-binary people are not accepted.
Well, I'm just like, I'm talking about like college campuses because that's where I've been the most currently.
Okay.
But my whole point is like, a lot of people, if you just go, oh hey, I use they them, nobody will care in your college class. Nobody's gonna say anything.
Okay. But there's more to life than college campuses.
Yeah, I
You
understand
might
that.
care if I tell
That's
them
where
to use neopronouns. A lot of people care about that.
Well, I think neopronouns are harder to use because it's like not the typical three. I mean, I'll call you whatever you want. Like, if you want to be called a lampshade, I'll call you a lampshade because I just don't care enough to affect you.
Rights to the inanimate objects. I don't like it.
No, but I'm just saying I'll call anyone anything they want because it's not my business to tell them like they're not that. But my whole point is like, I'm trying to understand like the point of label, like why one label matters more than the other label. Like, wouldn't you just want
as to
both?
why
to be-
you think a non-binary person calling themselves a lesbian is harmful? Could you talk a bit about that?
Yeah. So if we look at like how, so I'm gonna use the perspective of like most straight people, right? If I go up, because I'll use my boyfriend example. My boyfriend's sister is a lesbian. She's a woman, born a woman, and she loves other women, right? Love this woman to death. She's my favorite person, funniest person in the world. right? If she's dating someone, right? I just meet them. I know she's a lesbian. Wouldn't I automatically assume that person's a woman if she's actively said she's a lesbian multiple times?
Well, you don't have to be a woman in order to be a lesbian. The reason for that is because queer terms are like, they're changeable, they're interchangeable, they're adaptable. They don't have to conform to old traditional standards, like things that basically some queer people defined for us some time ago, but also cis hetero people did as well. We've evolved as a community, and we reserve the right to change what terms mean to us. Just because lesbian means something to you specifically doesn't mean that it can't mean something different to a trans femme or a trans masc person who may not resonate with the identity female, but resonates with the lesbian identity because that's their sexuality and it's valid.
Wouldn't that mean that every single definition is subjective?
It means that every definition can mean something different to each
So
queer
that
person.
would be subjective. That would by definition be subjective if it means something different to every other person.
Go ahead.
No, go for it, please.
I just think that I think cis hetero people love to decide for us, but we've spent so many centuries being like shuttered and belittled and told what we have to conform to. But whole time our community is so diverse, our experiences are so diverse. I get told every day that I can't be a trans man and a trans woman at the same time, but that's a falsified notion, again brought on by transphobic people.
And the reality is that definitions do change. Definitions don't decide what words mean. The way society uses words decides what the definition is.
Yes.
So that changes over time, and that's okay.
I understand that, but my whole question was, aren't words subjective? And I kind of got like a roundabout answer, and I would just like to hear a clear yes, because you said everyone defines, how they perceive that label differently.
I would suppose that would be a case-by-case basis. I'd imagine that some definition.
So let's use the example of the word lesbian. Is that subjective?
I would say so.
Yeah. So if it's subjective, why would one person's? So this is my point, because I feel like this is like such a roundabout conversation, because I feel like I'm just like repeating myself. But because you're saying like a majority, right? And I've seen a lot of this on my For You page of a movement of women who, are like, oh, the term has been this for forever. I'd rather people just make a term that best fits them. Wouldn't that just be, like, that's my point. Isn't there a way to make it more inclusive without taking from the people who still want to identify a certain way?
So definitions are descriptive, not prescriptive. So when we're like using a word, it's describing the experience, not prescribing the experience.
Yeah. So if you say, well, I'll use myself. So if I say I'm a lesbian, right? I'm a woman. I was born a woman at birth. I'm dating another woman who was born a woman at birth. Wouldn't that would be the definition, the old definition of being a lesbian. Now changing it, wouldn't that change like what it's perceived that I am attracted to?
No, it doesn't, because genitals and gender are two separate things. So words are all made up. Somebody, like a lot of people along the way of our existence, decided for you what each word meant. So to say that lesbian has to mean that you like a certain type of body type, like that doesn't make any sense, because when you were born, you were essentially assigned a specific gender. Don't you think that's sus? Like they decided before you could even think for yourself. They decided for you. And in my opinion, I think that being a lesbian doesn't have to mean that you only like a certain type of body, because some trans women are born with different genitals. They don't all have the same type of genital. So to say that just because you are a lesbian who might be interested in other trans masc lesbians or trans femme lesbians, it's not conclusive to genitals because words are made up. It's all made up. It's all like essentially like what we were talking about earlier.
I have a question.
You
though,
get to
about
decide
you
what it
said.
means to you.
So you said trans masc. Do you mean people who are identifying as a man?
Trans masc doesn't exclusively mean that you identify as a man because some people are genderless, some people are gender fluid. There's a lot of different terms.
Well, yeah,
And
but
I noticed that you said
That's my
born a
question.
woman, but born a woman isn't really a concept. Like, yeah, you may have been identified a woman at birth, but everybody has different genitals and they have different feelings in terms of their identity with how it aligns with their body. Like, you don't get to decide who's born a woman. I was identified as female at birth, but I feel I was born a man.
Well, that's what I mean. So if we're talking about, so you definitely are born asex, whether that's male, female, or intersex, right? There's three
Well,
options.
male and
there.
female are made up concepts, so you
I
were
mean,
assigned that because of the government.
You have biological things that define you, such as chromosomes. So if you have a chromosomal, so if
There's
you have
a
an
scientific experience that humans have. We've all evolved a certain way, of course, but homosexuality exists in over 1,500 species. Why would you not think that different kinds of quear people have existed for centuries? Just
Right,
because you have a
but
certain set of
definitely
genitals,
different
that
kind of
doesn't
people,
determine
different-
how you feel on the inside.
different kinds of people definitely exist. My whole question is why? So like certain lesbians, right? They might not be attracted to people who, certain people who identify as a woman, right? Would that mean that like people are invalidated by that? No.
When you say, can you be more specific when you say that?
So like, certain lesbians might not be attracted to people who are transgender who identify as a woman, right?
That's
might
valid.
not-
Nobody
yeah,
said they
yeah.
had to be.
No, I know it. That's what I'm saying.
But
So,
for what reason would they not be attracted to a trans woman?
probably genitals. I mean, if you have a genitalia preference, that's perfectly normal.
But I would say general preference is valid. But people who exclude trans people just because we're trans, I would say that is inherently transphobic and exclusionary.
Yes.
Well, I guess I can, yeah. I think we have the same point on that.
Okay, awesome.
If it wasn't like,
I just want to be clear here, Stacey. I think this is a great conversation. It's an important conversation to have. So I'm glad we're having it.
but like, my whole point is it's just coming full circle, like, by change, so we've all agreed that definitions are subjective, right? And when we change the definition for a whole group of people, it's excluding certain people.
But I'm not taking away the old definition. I have no problem with a lesbian being a woman who loves women.
Who's being excluded?
Right.
No, I'm saying when you take away like certain definitions, you're excluding other people, right? Like, I guess in your
Okay,
eyes,
but
my
who
definition
is being excluded?
Can I finish my sentence, please? Because I was getting to that. So when I look at the definition that most people use, right, and it's saying women loving women, you could say that it's excluding non-binary people, right? Because non-binary people aren't women.
Well, nobody's being excluded because, again, it's like a case-by-case basis. Like, yeah, there are some lesbians who are cisgender who do not want to be with transgender people, either because they're transphobic or because they have a genital preference. But at the end of the day, like, there are also a lot of lesbians out there who don't even identify as female exclusively, or they may identify as it sometimes or none at all, that are inclusive of all genders who also resonate with the lesbian term or bisexual, pansexual, because just because you're a lesbian doesn't mean you have to only date lesbians. You can date bi and pan people. So it's like, it's a case-by-case basis. Like, you keep talking about like going in circles and that this is your thing on it, but again, it's like, it's your opinion. It's your opinion that we're somehow changing the old definition, but we're not. It's called adaptation.
If you were here for the conversation, you would know that I've been very open-minded and came in saying I'm trying to better understand the point, and I'm not changing anything for anyone. I'm asking.
I never said you were. I'm answering you. I'm just telling you that the way you're perceiving it is that, like, you say that you have an open mind about it, but we're telling you that we're not excluding anyone, and we're not saying that lesbians can like cis lesbians can no longer have genital preference. Nobody said that. It's just that we want them to understand that non-binary people, trans masc, trans femme, etc., are allowed to be in lesbian spaces. I see transphobic content all the time from lesbian cis women talking about, oh, I saw this trans girl at the bar, but usually they're not saying trans girl, they're saying something far more transphobic, and they're excluding trans women from lesbian spaces, but not just trans women. They're excluding masc people, they're excluding gender fluid people, non-binary people who have resonated with the lesbian term for over a century, some of them. And that's not right, because just because it's something that you thought was your space, there's space for everybody. We can share space.
So is it inherently wrong for cis women to have a space where they only want to hang around other cis women?
I mean, I don't think so, but if you want to do that, I wouldn't expect that to be a public space. You could create your own space for that, but public spaces are for all human beings to be a part of.
Sure.
So
I would question the reasoning why cis women would want a space just for cis women. Now, can they have one? Sure, of course they can have one. Why?
I mean, some cis women might want to have conversations with other cis women, just like some trans people might want to have conversations with other trans people. I don't think it's inherently.
What conversation would cis women want to have?
Whatever they want. That's my question though. But like, I feel like people can have their own separate spaces. Like, yeah, obviously, trans women and women can share a space. Why can't cis women and other cis women also share a space? And why can't?
I do believe that cis women can have their own spaces. Again, I just question, why do they want their own space? For what reason?
That mentality, you're excluding trans women from the concept that we are women when we are in fact women. Why would we be taken out of a space that we reserve the right to be in if we identify as women?
No, so I'm not saying to take people out of spaces. I'm asking, like, would it be okay for it to happen? Why? I don't
need spaces for transgender women and to not include cisgender women in that. It's because of our shared experience of being trans, the oppression we face, the stigmatization we face, the danger that we face. Those would all be reasons to have a trans women exclusive space. But is there a reason to have a cis women space? But I don't necessarily see one.
Wouldn't there be a shared experience between cis women and other cis women, though? If you're doing the same, everyone has like a shared experience within their own community.
What shared experience do specifically cisgender women, not women as a whole, but specifically cisgender women, what shared experience do they have?
Growing up, being raised, identifying as a woman and being a woman. I feel like that's something that they could relate on. But I feel like
trans women have that experience too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a trans woman, and I told you I was identified as female at birth. I'm also a trans man, though. So I was raised female and identified as female throughout my life, but I just never felt like that. So I can relate to those experiences. I'm not cis.
Yeah, but my whole question is like, I don't care about trans people being in like cis women spaces. It doesn't really affect me. It doesn't bother me. I don't have time to care enough about other people's lives and what other people do. But my question is, why is it a big deal if certain people want to have spaces where it excludes other people? I feel like that's a normal thing. Not everyone wants to hang out with the same people.
Sure, I've already said that.
Yeah.
Cis women want to have their own space. By all means, go for it. My concern would be why. I cannot think off the top of my head. I haven't thought of all the angles here. But I cannot think of a reason that wouldn't be transphobic to have a cisgender only women's space.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Like, you can't expect that, especially in public situations like pride events, gay bars, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you can't expect that to only be for cisgender lesbians.
No, you can't expect that for sure. But my whole thing is like, I don't know why. I'm not one of those people who wants that space. The whole point of me asking was to understand, like, is that deemed okay by other
anyone
people?
who wants to create their own space privately is welcome to do so.
Yes.
and it's not exclusionary by doing so.
Not if you blatantly don't make it exclusionary. Like, if, I mean, you know, it's just there's a difference between purposefully making transgender people feel bad and like doing your own thing.
Yeah, and I would say being exclusionary is not inherently a bad thing. It is okay to exclude people sometimes.
Yeah, because if a frat boy tries to walk up and join my little women's club, I'm going to be like, no, you're not welcome because you're a frat boy. This is about women's shared experience.
Sure,
So that would be exclusionary. Yeah.
In that case, the point that I'm making here is that I don't think having a cisgender exclusive space would be a valid reason to exclude people. Can you do that?
So how do you feel about fraternities and sororities?
Like, one moment, let me warm it up. I'll mute because it makes so much noise.
Well, fraternities and sororities definitely shouldn't exclude transgender women from their spaces because they're also women. So, I mean, and also trans femmes who resonate with the female term or want to be in a sorority should be allowed to be in a sorority. You don't have to identify as female.
I don't think that, like, I don't think the point of a sorority or fraternity is to purposely exclude transgender people.
Nobody said that.
No, I know. But my question is, wouldn't those be spaces that are typically seen as like a cisgendered space?
Well, why would school be a place of education?
I'm talking about, like, if you look at a sorority from the 90s, right? And like a typical, like, let's look at Alabama. If you go down to those Alabama Delta Sig Pi sororities, wouldn't those
What is the purpose of this line? Where are we going? Because I feel like we were having a good conversation, and now I question the conversation we're currently having.
Yeah.
It seems like you're determined to find a way to exclude trans people from something.
No, but I'm saying, like, wouldn't those be spaces that, like, people might perceive as, like, a more cis space? I'm not saying that's, like...
Yeah, transgender people tend to be excluded across the board. It is true that trans people are expected to be excluded typically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's not okay. But like, that was my question. Aren't those?
Well, why would they be perceived as cis-only spaces? No, that they're perceived
because
as
99.9%
that is what you just said. You said wouldn't those spaces be perceived as cis-only spaces? That's what you said exactly. I remember.
Yeah, because it's a majority of cis people.
Because sororities again, if a sorority is for a female identifying person, there is no valid reason that a sorority should ever exclude a trans person. Has it happened? Sure. I'm sure it has, because queer people have been excluded from many spaces, from being doctors, from being adoptive parents, from being in churches, from everywhere, all across the world. But that's what we're trying to eradicate. We are trying to encourage equality instead of questioning why bigots are bigots. Bigots are going to be bigots, but the point is that we are supposed to reform people's minds. Yes, a sorority in Alabama may be full of cisgender girls who are transphobic and don't want trans girls in their spaces, but are we going to keep fighting for them to be in their spaces? Yes, because we are women and we are allowed to be in spaces where women are. Just because we're trans, that doesn't deem us excluded automatically. You may want to exclude us, but you don't reserve the right to, because humans reserve the right to thrive and exist equally.
Yeah, no, and I never said to exclude anyone. The reason I asked that is because I'm asking from people who don't identify as cisgender, like, wouldn't you perceive that as mostly like a cis-only space? Because I wouldn't want to walk into a fraternity and join it if I'm not welcome.
If we want to continue this cis-only space conversation, I need to hear some reasons as to why a cis-only space would be necessary or valid.
I don't think it's necessary. I just asked a question.
Why are you fighting so hard for cisgender-only spaces?
I'm not.
Okay, then why are we still having this conversation?
Because I'm asking questions.
Okay,
I worded in a way that make us think that you are intentionally trying to exclude trans women from spaces. Like, you're indicating that you're like, oh, aren't sororities supposed to be perceived? Like, what does that even mean?
I said, aren't sororities perceived? I mean, no, if you're perceiving
they're not perceived as cis-only spaces. A sorority is perceived as a sorority. Like I said, some sororities are transphobic, but not all of them are.
Yeah, I mean, I was just asking questions. I'm trying to better understand other people's point of views. I mean, I don't really have a hill to die on, because none of this affects me at the end of the day.
But Cece, just asking questions is fine, but you're not just asking questions, you're pushing.
I mean, that's how you better understand things. You ask more questions on top of it.
Okay. So
I mean, I kind of got my
you
answers.
explained our stance on cisgender-only spaces. I think that they're allowed. I also think that they're problematic.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. That was my question.
All right. Anything else?
I was just saying, like, I wasn't trying to come for anyone. I was asking questions because at the end of the day, none of this affects me. I could care less.
We're glad that it doesn't affect you, but the reality is that there's queer people all around the world that these conversations affect every day, and perpetuating transphobic notions is what causes danger against transgender people. I'm not saying you are exclusively doing that. I'm not saying you are the reason for transphobia around the world, but being more open-minded and taking what we've told you and sharing it with the people around you and standing up for transgender women, trans femmes, trans masks alike, that's what you could do to help our community. If you care, you see that it doesn't affect you, well, that's good for you, but think about the people that it does affect every day, the children who get bullied because they're trans, the people who can't use the locker room of their choice because they're scared. Do you think about those things, or do you only think about it
No,
from a
I
cis
definitely
perspective?
do. And when I say I could care less, I'm saying I don't care people's personal preferences. I'm going to respect you, and I'm going to help you out if you need help. If someone's being rude to you, I'm going to stand up for you. That's what I'm saying when I mean I could care
Well, you've
less.
said a lot of different things, so it's kind of confusing where your stance lies. But
Where you wanna know where my
we
stance
are
lies?
grateful for another ally, of course. But if you're only interested in the way cis people speak, and you're not interested in what trans people have to say, then why do you want to be part of the conversation? Is what I'm
Didn't I
questioning.
just have the whole conversation and listen to you and take the information in? And
You did, but it seemed like you kept coming back to the concept of are trans women supposed to be accepted in cis spaces, or how cis spaces are perceived, instead of figuring out how you can contribute.
I was asking questions. I understand how to contribute. I've had the conversation with my friends before. Like, personally being like, what should I do if I see certain situations? And they've told me. So I felt like that was information that didn't need to get brought up, and this is a small conversation. My whole point is like, and when I said I don't care, I mean that I care. I don't care enough to be disrespectful or rude or not follow other people's pronouns or whatever they want to be called or whatever they identify as. That's what I don't care about. I'm saying
Have
those
you learned
things.
anything from today's conversation?
Yeah,
Fantastic. Awesome.
yeah. But when I say I don't care, I'm not saying I don't care about gay or
Sure.
trans people. And I think a lot of people took it that way.
I believe you, Cece.
Yeah.
What I want you to take out of this, though, is that you do have the privilege of being cisgender heterosexual, right? You're cis het.
Yeah.
Okay. So while these conversations don't affect you, they do affect us.
Yeah.
So
And that's why I came up here to listen.
sure, fantastic. I think that's awesome. And I want to commend you for that. Just bear in mind that when you have these conversations, it does have an effect on the people that you're talking to, even if it doesn't have an effect on you yourself.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand how some things I could say could possibly be taken as offensive, but honestly, like but like college was like the first year I kind of saw like, because where I live there isn't very many people who outwardly identify, so like college was the first year I kind of like was exposed to all this, and I'm trying to understand it better because I think it helps society if you understand the people around you.
Sure, I agree. Casey, I think you come up. I'm going to move on to the next guest now, but you have a good day, all right?
All right, bye.
Have a good one. I believe CC has the ability to learn. Okay. Music, thank you so much for coming up. You are welcome to co-host if you would like to.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
No problem. I gave you a follow.
Thank you. I've never can you tell me what that might entail?
It just means that we're going to have conversations with several different people.
Okay, cool.
No problem. I have a question for you. If I understand correctly, you said that you identify as both a trans man and a trans woman. Did I misunderstand or mishear?
No, yeah, that's what I said. You were asking me, right?
Okay, so you identify as both a trans man and a trans woman.
Yeah, so I had mentioned earlier that I was identified as female at birth, but when I was around like 12, I figured out the term transgender and kind of started looking into it and figured out what it meant to me. And I started reflecting on all my experiences growing up. And I was like, wow, I've never really resonated with being a woman. I've never cared about that. I mean, when I was like 6 years old, I wanted to wear boxers like my brother and just things like that. I never felt like connected to my body. So I was closeted as a trans man for like 3 years, and then I finally came out to my parents. I got my name changed. I had my license changed to male. And then I just kind of lived as a man trans mask until I was about 22. And then I started like experimenting with being a feminine boy and then like a girl boy. And now I just identify as a trans man, trans woman, gender fluid, androgynous, gender non-binary, and gender non-conforming, because like I just feel very fluid in my experiences as a queer person. Sometimes I feel like a man, a woman, both, neither. You know what I mean?
Yes, I had never heard that before. So thank you for sharing. Tammy, thank you so much. First time subscriber. Okay, I'm going to bring up the next guest right now, guys. If y'all keep tapping that screen, we have 20,000 likes already. That is absolutely amazing. If we can get that up to 30,000, I would greatly appreciate that. If you are new to my channel, say hi in chat.
I love your hair. It's so beautiful.
I was going to say hi, but you're in sub-only mode.
Oh, that's right. I am a sub only. So never mind. Forget the highs. If you're a follower of mine, write Grayskull in chat. Damn it! All those people that are new, like, damn it, I can't comment. Sorry, guys.
As a content creator, deal with transphobic remarks or transphobic people in your comment section on this app?
Sorry, music. I didn't catch that.
Oh, sorry. How do you, as a content creator, deal with or like to approach transphobic comments or transphobic remarks in your experience on this app?
Yeah, I go sub only. That way, if they want to make their transphobic remarks, they have to pay me to do so.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
And believe you me, they do. Thank you so much. 6-month subscriber. I appreciate you so much. I've literally made thousands of dollars off of transphobes.
That's amazing.
If I could get someone to connect now, that would be awesome. Subbing to hate is a crazy concept. I agree completely. Now, I want to be clear. Subbing to share critique is a different thing. People who have concerns about something that I've said or a topic or something like that, or maybe a behavior, that's completely valid. And I don't want any hate sent to people that are critiquing me. There's a difference. Subbing to spread transphobia, whole different thing. Hi, Mel. I can't get anyone to connect. That was a long conversation. That was the first guest. This is the past 2 days. The first guests have gone for 50 minutes.
Wow.
I'll tell you so much about us, Tammy. Mel, I got a new prop gift. I got a tiara. But unfortunately, the tiara is an exclusive gift, so only some people have it and some people don't. So I can't pin it as a gift goal. Yet another person that isn't connecting. What is happening? Is it tiara or tiara? It's tiara, right?
I guess either or.
Hello, Heather, how you doing? Heather, you with me?
Me?
Yes. How are you today? Yes.
Okay. Hi. Sorry, I've actually never joined in on anybody's live before. I don't inherently disagree with you.
I'm just first.
I'm sorry, what?
I just need to know your age first.
Oh, I'm 37.
37. Okay. All right. So, what are your thoughts on the topic?
So I don't inherently disagree with you. I feel that people can identify however they choose to, and how you choose to identify doesn't personally affect me. So I will respect, whatever pronouns, however you want to identify anything. My question was just why, or do you even have a preference as to being called a lesbian versus being called queer?
Oh, I don't have a preference when it comes to those two words.
Okay.
I love them both. Queer is an umbrella term that basically includes the entire. Actually, it does include the LGBT community, I believe. I don't know. Does Two Spirit count as queer? I'm not going to comment on that because it wouldn't be appropriate for me. But lesbian is just a more specific label.
Okay. So, I don't have like a disagreement to like argue with you about or give a point of view on. I agree that people can be whoever they want to be, and I have no personal problem with respecting however you choose to identify or live your life. I just had a question on the lesbian versus queer thing, and you've answered that. So I guess I don't have much to contribute in way of argument. I'm just kind of here to listen to your comments and kind of just gain some more information. I think everybody deserves to be respected for who they are. So,
yeah, the word queer is going to be a case by case basis because queer it's a reclaimed slur. So a lot of people are still going to be uncomfortable with that term.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for coming up, Heather.
Thank you.
Go on. All right, 1,100 people watching, guys. That is awesome. Thank you so much to every single one of you. If you guys are enjoying this, if you see value in these conversations, please consider hitting that follow button right up top. All right, let's see if we can get someone to connect. Hello, 21 Savage.
Hmm.
21 Savage, she with me? I hear you. Nope, no 21. I got the hiccups again.
What do the little stars mean in the corner? The blue ones.
Blue stars? Oh, those are mostly the diamonds that you've received. So music you've made about $1. And Momless, you've made about a penny.
But it goes to you, right?
What?
It goes to you.
That goes to you. That goes to you.
What?
Yeah.
What the hell? How do I send it to you? Because this is your life.
You don't have to worry about that. You're fine.
If you did want to send them back, TikTok will let you convert your coins, and then you can send them to whoever you like. That's what I do.
Okay, thank you.
Pay it forwards. It can also be likes. People can click on your profile and send likes directly to you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Amongst other things, there are other ways I think for that number to go up. But the majority of the time, that number is going to go up due to diamonds that you've received. Oh, also new followers. Anyone who follows you will also make that number go up. Like for instance, watch. Let's get a bunch of people to follow Momless right now. Momless has 4 right now. Let's get a bunch of people to follow Momless. We see that number go up. Thank you for the roses. There we go. See?
Aww.
I've been playing Planet Zoo a lot recently, so they're gonna see that for the next however long.
Man, that went up fast. Holy shit. We got out of the 1,100 people watching, a lot of people decided to follow you, Momless.
That's so sweet.
Hello, Mana, how you doing?
Hi, Adora.
How old are you?
Wait, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. How old are you?
I'm 18. Born.
Now I can't hear you.
Hello? Wait, hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Adora. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna argue with you that yes, you can be
I do still
trans.
need age before we continue.
Oh, okay. I'm 18,
And what year were you born?
2006.
Okay, fantastic. Go for it.
Okay. Hi. I'm gonna say to this. I completely will not shame you for being a transgender lesbian. I'm completely fine with that. But when I'm okay, did I cut off?
I can hear you. I got a weird feedback.
Okay, let me like take off my mic. Okay. I'm not gonna like I like agree with you that you're trans and that you're lesbian. I'm not shaming you for it. I mean, I completely agree that you can be transgender and that you can be lesbian, but what I'm not gonna like agree on is that you are a trans person who is representing our trans community, but you're also the kind of person who tries to insinuate hate within the trans community. Like the way you act, Adora. You're all the way that you act as a trans person. You should act as someone who will respect, someone who will not insinuate hate within the trans community. But you're the one who's trying to incite that hate within our community. You know damn well how you act. You know how you act as a person. You try to rage bait. Wait, hold on. You try to rage bait.
Okay, so who is going to be angry about this topic about me? Thank you for the roses.
Okay, hold on. You know that this topic that you're doing right now, you know fully just trying to show topics. You're just trying to insinuate hate against abuse. You're making a bad look to the trans community, Adora, and you know that.
Who is going to be angry about the topic above?
Okay. I'm gonna stray off from this topic today. I'm gonna talk to you, okay? I'm gonna talk to you about this topic today. I think that you're not raw. That you're. Hold on. Okay, tell me why you became a transgender and then you became a lesbian first. Tell me.
Yeah, that's not an answer to my question. I was born this way. But my question to you...
but what made you become...
That's fine. I'm okay with people being...
But what made you become a lesbian?
Talk about it.
When you were a trans?
Birth made me become a lesbian. The only people who are going to be angry at this topic are transphobes and homophobes. People who already don't like us.
And I've seen nothing but Adora.
You're the one who's making transphobia worse.
How is Adora? Your pronouns are she, her, right? Okay. Well, how is she making this? How is she making the world more transphobic by taking time out of her day to educate people who have questions and who have transphobic mentalities? How is that contributing to transphobia? Because I've been hearing Adora talk, and she has said nothing but helpful things towards the community. So I'm confused where you're getting that.
Okay, first of all, I think you're fully aware on what Adora is trying to do here. I think you fully know that Adora is trying to
support
incite
Adora.
hate within the trans
putting
community.
Words in my mouth by saying that I am fully aware of what Adora is doing, as if Adora has some
because you are
like extra incentive going here. I'm pretty sure. I mean, maybe Adora is, they're a content creator. Maybe they're trying to solicit funds, but at the same time, she's educating people and she's taking time out of her day to do that. So I'm confused what the issue is.
My income has largely evaporated, and I don't care. I'm going to continue to do this. There's nothing that's going to stop me from this because money is not the incentive.
Yes.
No, I think fully well. Okay, Dora, let me explain to you why that you're trying to insinuate transphobia in our community. First of all, Adora, you try to act like you're a trans person. You're trying to act like you're educating people by teaching them how trans people live their lives. You're trying to teach them how transphobia works, how transgenderism is the best thing in your life, how your life is basically great when you're trans. Yes, you're educating people, but what you're doing is you're saying it while you're trying to act like, oh, I'm this. You're trying to be like a man. You're trying to be like.
How is she trying to be a man?
Hold on, I can't explain it. I can't explain it fully, but you know damn well what you're doing.
That sounded misogynistic. That sounded to me like you're implying that women can't be tough firm, aggressive, defensive.
No, that's not what I meant. I meant that you're trying to insinuate hate within our community.
No.
You're trying to
I'm
be.
trying to
How is
talk
she
to
doing
the
that?
people who hate us.
I'm confused as to why you think you can
Okay,
tell someone
Adora, let me
else
tell
what
you
their
something.
motives are.
Are you fully aware? Are you fully aware that there are multiple TikToks of you with a lot of transgender creators literally complaining about the fact that you are the reason why transphobia is so rampant and why it's literally
Their
a reason
content
why
is
it's
reliant
such
upon
a
me.
serious
They
issue
have
because you're the one who's also
want to
causing
be.
it. There's a lot of transgender creators who have complained about the way you act and the way that you're representing our community
Okay.
badly
Nana,
by trying to incite hate.
I need you to take a breath so that I can respond. Yes, I am aware that there are transgender people who don't like the way that I do things. Our community is not a monolith. We will disagree on things, and that's okay. That said, there are transgender people with transphobic ideology. And the majority of the people who are running my face as their background, I have found that whether they are cisgender or transgender, they are upholding transphobia. As a matter of fact,
still
I've
haven't
never
really-
seen someone run my face as a background that wasn't upholding transphobia.
And you still haven't explained what
Oh,
Adora is exactly
okay,
doing. That's
so you're saying, hold on.
transphobia. You've been falsely accusing Adora of transphobia without even explaining any specific examples of how she has been transphobic.
Wait, hold on. She basically said that she knows that there are trans people who have transphobic ideas. How are you a person who are saying that there are trans people who are transphobic when they're transgender themselves? You're literally
That doesn't
you're
make
literally
any sense.
even betraying your
Trans
own identity.
people are not all rainbows and sunshine sometimes. I'm a transgender person myself.
No, she
I've
said
met
Wait,
many
you just
transgender people
accused
who are transphobic.
Adora of spreading.
no, but she's generalizing trans people as someone who has transphobia,
No, she's
transphobic
not.
ideologies.
She never
No, she
once
basically
said that.
said that
She said
she's-
that some trans people.
She
in the
said she's
community are
aware. She said she's
transphobic.
aware.
That's what she said. You're twisting the words to fit your own narrative because you're transphobic yourself.
Okay. No,
You know,
you know,
I
she
don't know.
fully knows.
You keep saying she fully knows. She fully knows what? You don't go into detail about like how she is being transphobic. You just keep accusing. her.
Okay, you want me to
You don't make any
okay, hold on.
sense.
You want me to go to full detail? Okay. Basically, Adora, there are a lot of people who hate you because you're a transgender yourself who has masculine features, who has manly biology or manly facial features, and you're basically trying to act like you're a man while standing up for transgender rights when a lot of people are saying that, oh, why is she doing hold on, I'm not finished. You're trying to advocate for transgender rights, you're trying to advocate for trans people, but you fully know that you as a trans person shouldn't look like that, or you shouldn't act like that.
What do you mean? What is a transgender person supposed to look like? Is there a little box that you put us all in?
Transgender people are supposed to be okay, hold on. Transgender people are supposed to be respected, or they're supposed to have morally respectful views, even if people are gonna hate you, even
Adora
if people are
has
gonna
morals, and
disrespect
she's really respectable. She actually holds her emotions
Oh,
in
no, that's
far
not-
more than I do.
Thank you.
Hold on. Adora, you should not be expecting that people are going to be respecting you just because you're trans. There are people who have different ideologies than
Are you
and you
projecting a
think
little
you have.
bit here?
Acknowledge that.
It kind of sounds like you're projecting a little
No.
bit here.
That's fully the reason
Yeah.
why.
No, it sounds like you're projecting because you actually started
Why am I projecting here? Okay,
you
tell me, what
started
am
your
I projecting?
explanation by saying that Adora has manly features? What are you talking about? She identifies as a woman. She looks like a woman. She is a woman. You are transphobic by coming onto
Oh,
this
she
live
looks like?
and telling
Okay.
her that people hate her because she's transgender. That's disgusting mentality. Why would you even think that's okay to say to somebody?
Mona, I think we've gone every.
Miss Girl, if you have a little bit of consciousness, you have a little bit of logical thinking, you will.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
It
Thank
kind
you.
of sounded to me like that guest was yelling at you, Stuff Society has yelled at them because they haven't processed it yet.
Yeah. You're probably right.
That was disgusting. I am so sorry.
It's okay. I especially try to give space to transgender people to criticize me. And I do want people to be able to come up here and say, hey, I think that the way that you're doing this isn't the right way. Maybe try this way. But that was not a productive way to do that. I think there's more people who love you than who hate you. Thank you so much, Squirrelpit. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
No, I don't think that was about you at all. So if that helps, maybe not take it so personally.
Okay. If everyone can keep tapping that screen, that would be greatly appreciated. We have a sub wave going. If we get 3 more subs in the next 13 minutes, then every subscriber who's currently watching will get a new emote from the easy tier of emotes. I'm not upgrading it to the higher tiers, guys. We never complete the higher tiers. I'm keeping it on easy. I had Jocelyn the other day. That conversation didn't go well at all. Sorry, Jocelyn, you're not coming out.
Hello?
Hello, GTFO.
Oh, my name is Bella.
Bella,
yeah.
How old are you? Thank you so much for the festival bling.
I am 19 years old,
And what year were you born?
2005.
All right. And am I a lesbian?
Technically, you are. I don't have any transphobic comments to put out against you or anyone. I respect everyone's opinion on whether they are a girl or boy. It's just I have a few questions for you that I myself am like confused on. If that's all right to ask.
I got a phone call. I'm not dropping. I just couldn't hear what you said. So if you could repeat what you just said.
I don't have any remarks to make about you, but I have a few questions for you and see how you view some things maybe differently than others. If that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so basically there is like a whole debate about in like the sports Olympics community that's like transgender women, like from man to female, shouldn't be competing in female groups.
I'll make a brief comment on that. I don't particularly love talking about sports. I don't really run sports backgrounds. I believe that there is a nuanced discussion to be had around transgender people in sports. I believe that transgender women do belong in women's sports conditionally. We should either be on HRT for a period of 2 years and have our hormone levels tested, or we should have not gone through male puberty. If either of those two conditions are met, then we should be allowed to.
Okay, now see that's what I agree with. Like if you haven't gone through your like puberty as a male, you really don't have an advantage personally because you don't have your testosterone and all that, like, you know. And another question about like this is about you, but like when people like normally come up to you, what do they pronounce your holy, how the fuck do I say this? How would they come up to you and like use your pronouns? Do they use he? Do they use she? What do they normally use?
If I'm on the phone, people typically call me use sir for me. Thank you so much for the hat, I appreciate it. Thank you. And if it's in person, people usually use she, her, ma'am, miss, etc.
But what is the difference between on the phone and in real life? I'm just asking, no hate.
You only hear my voice. I have a very deep voice, so people typically assume that I'm a man.
Oh, okay. So like, do you not take any like, what do people take to make their voice higher?
There isn't anything you can take for that. There's 2 things you can do. One is you can train your voice. That's totally an option. Thank you so much, free exotic Joe. I gotta watch that show again. So it was entertaining. And the other is that you can get surgery to feminize your voice.
So let's say a female transition to a man, they take testosterone pills apparently.
Yes, when a transgender man starts HRT, testosterone will masculinize your voice. Estrogen doesn't reverse that effect. So if you've already gone through male puberty, meaning testosterone has already affected your vocal cords, you can't you can't undo that by taking estrogen.
Oh, okay, that's more understandable.
Adora, I had a question for you.
Hang on one second, guys. If you guys can continue this conversation one moment, I have to respond to a text. Just give me a moment. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm back. What questions do you have?
I know you said you don't like sports or talking about sports. I don't like sports either, but I did want to like inquire about what you said about like the conditions for. I mean, I think that if a person is like astronomically like stronger physically, yeah, maybe some people could get hurt, and that's not like the ideal. But oh, they paused again, or is that just me?
No.
I can still.
Oh,
I
you
can still
hear me. Okay, cool. But
Sorry,
like,
I got some stuff going on in the background. Thank you for the little crown.
I was just wondering because I think that there are some people who are identified as male at birth that may be more softer bodied. Like there's a lot of like frail, fragile, like thin boned people out there that were identified as male at birth. So I don't think HRT should be a condition for trans women being on sports teams. I mean, maybe they could just have like a strength test as opposed to just automatically, deeming them not able to play or physically compete because of like, injustices or unfairness. Because there are cisgender women in this world who are extremely strong physically too. So there's like, I just don't think that HRT should be a condition of queer people playing on sports teams because that's just ridiculous. But there should be strength tests, of course, so that nobody gets hurt.
Ideally, I'd rather see weight classes and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Segregation by men's and women's. That's what I would like to see. Yeah, but this is why I say that I think there's a nuanced discussion to be had. I think there's a lot of different angles that can be taken here.
Yeah, I agree with you.
System, like operating with what we currently have, the simplest solution is probably HRT requirements. But as far as bigger structural changes, sure, I think there's discussion to be had there as well.
Yeah.
I feel like because of the sports that transgender women can compete in women's sports, I feel like there should be a class like separately for transgender women and transgender males. So it's like
that's not going to work. Because the unfortunate reality is that there just aren't very many transgender athletes. In the NCAA, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, there were less than 100 transgender athletes that competed. Less than 100. That's barely enough to make a single league for one sport, let alone multiple divisions across multiple sports.
okay, you do have a point on that, but I think with the years, like in the future, there should be more athletes that come in that are transgender people, and that people should be like, oh yeah, like suggesting to like the sports board or whoever controls it to be like, oh yeah, let's make like a separate group for you guys. Because technically when people when women compete in like male sports and the male beats them, or males come and compete in the women's sports, it's normally like you're stronger, usually more stronger than the females, of course.
But physical advantages are a thing that we see in sports. Period. For instance, I've been watching the WNBA a lot lately. I'm loving it. And Cameron Brink is an amazing defender. She has a huge height advantage over most of her opponents, and she's able to relatively easily block the ball. I'm not saying that it's easy for her. She's got to work her ass off to do it, but she has a height advantage, which makes it possible for her to block the ball a lot more easily. We want to add limits to the height that's allowed in basketball. I don't think that would be a good solution.
I don't think there should be a height limit in basketball, because basketball is literally about like how tall you are. If you're not tall enough, what the fuck are you even doing in basketball?
Sure,
There's no
Angel
point.
is shorter than a lot of the women in the WNBA. But Angel Reese is still a fantastic player despite being shorter.
Perhaps, but I feel like because the transgender females that are competing in female sports, that's what's causing other people as well to hate in the transgender community or LGBTQ community in general. But that's how I see it, and that's what I hear from other people, like on social media, like, oh, why did this person compete in a women's sports? Like, it's not fair. They have a disadvantage. This is why I hate the LGBT community. That's what I always hear about this, and I feel like that's the main cause of reason as well. Like one of the causes that's like spiraling hate around the transgender community.
I think you have to put into perspective that the reason that you see hate and that you experience this animosity towards queer people and it's normalized to hate queer people and to despise them in being in spaces in which they identify is because hate is often normalized by bigots and trans folks. But that's why the whole point is to encourage people to be accepting and to be full of love, as opposed to just shutting away transgender people or attempting to create their own space for them. Because by attempting to separate transgender people from cisgender people, that's like separating people based off of race or religion. It's just not necessary. Like, yeah, you can create spaces that are specifically for those people. You know, there's Christian churches and there's Catholic churches, but in general, like a sports, that's a public general thing that anyone should be able to experience if they desire to. So why would you want to deny them? Why would you want to deny a transgender woman of being a part of the girls, of being one of the girls, of being on the sports team that she dreams of? I mean, do you ever think about people's feelings when it comes down to this as opposed to public perception? Why does it matter what society thinks? Don't you think about the way the person feels internally? I mean, yeah, there's been incidents where people have taken, what do you call those? Like, I forget, steroids to make themselves stronger in sports, but rarely does that happen with transgender athletes. They don't go out of their way to make themselves like more stronger because of their gender. They're just making themselves stronger because they're competing. And I think that if a cis person gets beat by a trans person, it has nothing to do with physiology. It's all about the fact that that cis person did not train enough for that event.
Okay, now see, that's where, like, I don't know much about like these things, so I'm just asking. It's not like I'm trying to be rude or anything.
Right.
But I do agree with what you just said. Like maybe like in the future, hopefully more transgender people will come into the sports community and just like they will make a section for those people. So
Those people.
But that is gonna
30 seconds.
basically
30 seconds. One more sub.
revert. I mean, that goes against everything that we're trying to do here. Like, you know, in your words, those people that probably isn't the correct term to use.
I'm using those people as
trans-
a general, and I'm using
if
those
we
people as a
create
general
trans-
because if I have to go and say every single like person like, oh, it's a transgender male, transgender female, it's gonna be a long list on that part because there's so many like pronouns to use that I even get confused on it. So at this point, I just refer to everyone as they them.
Can I finish?
Go ahead.
If we create, you know, this league that you're speaking of, you know, trans leagues, that's taking away the point of, you know, Adora identifies as female. Why would we need a separate league for transgender folks? Like, that takes away of the whole purpose of, you know, us identifying as male, female, non-binaries, things like that nature, if that makes sense.
Because then again, as mentioned, some people have advantages and disadvantages from others. Let's say a male comes to compete in the female, like a transgender male. They come to compete in a female league. because they identify as a female, but you don't know how strong a male is compared to a female. Yes, maybe they're undertrained. Maybe they could have gone, like the females could have gone farther in training, but there's a disadvantage of that for females. But that's how I see it. I don't have any hate on trans people or anything like that. That's just how I see it.
Well, what do you think about cisgender girls who want to be part of the boys sports team? Not because they're a boy, but because they just feel like their strength is, it's no match for the girls. Like they're too strong or they're too competitive to be with the girls. Don't you think that that's why we as trans people, some of us encourage, that we should advocate for like all gender sports based off of like what Adora was saying earlier, maybe a weight class that could separate like the physical body strength, because you know it's not just trans people who may be like physically more strong or otherwise. It's also cisgender people themselves. Like there are some cisgender girls who are stronger than other cisgender girls, and that makes those girls at a disadvantage. So don't you think that all gender sports based off of like weight class maybe better, as opposed to just separating trans people from the main, from the main situation? Because the reality is that if you had a group of transgender kids and they only play on their own sports team, right? And they're separate from kids like you, I'm not saying you're a kid, you're 19, but like from people like you're a cis person, right? If they had those two separate things, who do you think is going to get more views in the crowd? There's going to be, those queer people are going to have their friends and family come to watch them, but they're not going to have the bigots in the crowd. The bigots are all going to be at the group of cisgender kids playing sports, and that's going to make them feel alone and left out. And that's just like why that's not ideal. Like there's a lot of reasons why it's not ideal, but the main is because it's truly unfair. It's truly unfair to separate somebody because of their identity. Nobody deserves to be like told that they can't be a part of something because of who they are. I can't control the fact that I'm transgender, and it's sad that people have animosity towards it.
Well, take wrestling, for example. I don't know. I mean, where I'm from, high school wrestling has let women wrestle in a predominantly male sport. There's females wrestling, cisgender females wrestling cisgender men or boys, for example, like, and that's not, excluding anybody. I mean, some of the women that are wrestling are kicking the boys' asses, quite frankly. Like I said, I don't know if that happens in other areas. I'm just speaking of the area that I live in. But yeah, like separating women and men is not going to do anything to I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
I realize that I haven't really been present in this discussion. Nonetheless, I would like to pull the conversation away from transgender sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. But it's just a thing that here on the island, like I live in the Caribbean. So in the Caribbean, we don't really see a lot of people being open about their gender. Let's say someone walks up to me and I'm like, oh, hey, how are you? And I'm like talking to her because they look like a female, but then they tell me like, no, I'm actually a male. But that's where I come in and I'm like, oh, this is confusing. Like, you're just as a female, you act as a female, but you go by he, him. And I understand that. It's totally acceptable. But it confuses me, and then you want to get mad at me for misgendering you. But we don't really see a lot of transgender people here on the island.
When you misgender someone, the correct thing to do is apologize, correct yourself, move on. Don't make it a big deal. Typically, it's not going to result in a big scene if that's what you do. Apologize, correct yourself, and move on. But the reality is that being misgendered hurts. And we have the rights to be upset when we're misgendered.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that. Don't worry. But it's just because here on the island, so many people are just transphobic. Like, it's unreal how many transphobic and, like, they have a hate against the LGBTQ community. Normally, we have, like, a little parade here. Sometimes in the mid-year, I think it was June or July. But we have a little parade that goes on here. And then when I went there last year, no one was present. There was not even one person present. That's not the parents of the child or the friends and family of the children. No one else was present because of the hate here on the island. And that's where I'm like, why is this such a hate when it comes to transgender people or like people from the LGBTQ community? It's a bit too much here on the island compared to like America. America, you have like so many like groups and people that everyone supports, or not everyone, but like a lot of people support the community. But here on the island, it's like we're like estranged from everyone. Like no one gives a shit about anyone. So that's where it's like a bit confusing for a lot of the people here on the island.
Sure, but people can learn. The people on the island, they have internet, right?
We do have internet, but the thing is, we are hard-headed. Like, or not we, but like a lot of people here on the island are hard-headed as fuck. They're old
We're not
school.
going to use that as a way to validate transphobia or homophobia.
No, I completely understand, but that's why I try to intervene with people, like to tell them like, hey, be nicer to this person. They're going through a hard time. They're not getting enough support from their parents, whatever it may be. But it's like getting a bit too much to the point where no one can express themselves like the way they want it.
I'm sorry, if being polite is too much for people, that's a them problem.
Yeah, here people on the island, it's like people are stupid. I'm sorry, I'm calling my own people stupid because they fucking are. And also they're rude and they don't care about anyone else but themselves.
Sure, and look, I recognize that things are different in different places, and some places are a little bit farther behind than others. I am willing to work with people where they are on the condition that they are willing to learn. If someone misgenders me, I'm not going to, personally, this is just for me, I'm not going to throw up and I'm just going to correct them and say, hey, I'm actually a woman. If you could use she or pronouns, that'd be good. 99 out of 100 times, that doesn't cause a problem. The 1 out of 100 times is when a person goes and makes it into a huge deal, makes it about themselves, or starts asking inappropriate questions.
Okay, yeah, that's understandable then.
Yeah. Okay. GTFO, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
Not really, no. I can get out of the live so other people can also have a chance to talk.
All right. Thank you for coming up.
No worries. Thank you.
Sorry, guys. I had two things that required my immediate attention going on in the background, so I kind of had to pull myself.
No, it's okay. Sorry we veered off discussion there.
People don't treat this as a serious job for me, so they think that they can just call me whenever and get my undivided attention immediately. But this is literally what I do for work. And no, I can't talk when I'm at work. All right. If everyone could keep tapping that screen and share the live, that would be fantastic. Don't forget, if you are a subscriber to the $5.99 tier, either up here or down here, you do get access to the Best Friend Squad Discord. My makeup looks great, thank you. I tried something a little different today.
I love your hair, by the way. I don't know if
Thank
saw
you.
my
I'm
comment.
so happy. So happy.
Hey,
What's it?
Hello, Riley?
Rayleigh,
Leaving. Okay. How old are you, please?
19, born in 2005.
Fantastic. And what are your thoughts on the topic?
I think that I personally, like, I don't believe you are a lesbian. I would see you more as a pansexual.
But I'm not pansexual because I'm not attracted to men.
Well, okay. I think that the other thing is like, as a lesbian, you're attracted to a vagina, correct?
I'm uncertain if I have a genital preference or not.
Okay. Well, most people that are lesbian are attracted to, like, vaginas, correct?
I
No.
would say it's typical of a lesbian to appreciate vagina. I would
Sorry, I know that's like so weird to say.
Yeah, but I also think that when we have, I don't think it's uncommon for us when we have our initial interest in someone to not be thinking about their genitalia, to be thinking about the person themselves.
Yeah. So like when you first go on a date with like a woman, do you like immediately disclose that you are trans?
I don't believe that I owe disclosure. Personally, I will quite literally wear my transness on my sleeve. So I'm likely to practically introduce myself as transgender to any new person that I meet. But I don't think that is owed.
I feel like it should be like, I feel like you should give that disclaimer though when like you're going on a date with someone.
Why do you think that's owed?
Because as like, if I'm going to get into a relationship, like personally I'm straight, so if I was going on a date with a man and like 3 dates in, they're like, oh yeah, also I was born a woman, like then I've been lied to.
Can't you just disclose that you don't want to date trans people then?
Sure, and I'm curious, what's the lie? In what way was that trans woman lying about anything?
Because they were, this is gonna sound bad, but like they were saying that they were a man, but they really weren't.
So you're under the impression that trans women are men.
Adora, I think she's talking about a trans man.
Yeah, I'm
So
talking-
she's calling a trans
Oh,
man.
no, I got something wrong here then. Thank you so much for the 10 months. Give me the scenario one more time. I think I misheard something.
So like if I go on a date with a man and
Oh, okay, I got it backwards.
so I would feel like I have been lied to because they have been like showing themselves as a woman, so I'm under the impression that they're a woman or I'm under the impression that they're a man. Sorry, I misspoke.
Okay.
I'm under the impression that they're a man. So for however long until they disclose it, I've been like being misled, I guess is the best way to say it, because
That would still be a case of you being on a date with a man.
I get where you're upset about like the transparency, like you feel like you haven't been told some sort of truth, but the reality is just that like what we're trying to like skew you away from is like being well, I mean, you're allowed to have a genital preference, yes, but you shouldn't be so concerned about what's in people's pants. I mean, don't you really care about their heart, as well as the fact that that man that you're on a date with, in his heart and his mind, throughout his bones, he's a man, and you should perceive him that way as well. But you don't know that he's trans, right? But that's why he's telling you, like, he's a man. You're supposed to perceive him that way no matter what, regardless of what his genitals are, is the whole point. And if they do, if he feels comfortable enough to tell you that he's transgender, then he will. But there's some men that live stealth, which means like you don't really disclose to people that you're transgender because it's not something that they're owed. They don't need to know like what your situation is, because it's just not necessary unless you guys become close like that and they feel comfortable enough telling you. Then why would you need to know?
well, my thing is like if you are trans, you should be comfortable enough with being trans to where like you're willing to disclose it, in my opinion.
Let's talk about that. Trans people should be comfortable. Wouldn't that be a perfect world? Like where trans people got to go out in public and be comfortable. But the reality is that we face 4 times the violence of the cisgender community. 4 times. And it is dangerous for us to disclose to dates that we are trans.
I mean, do you have an article that says that there is 4 times as much
Yep, I
like
do.
violence?
Yep, let me get it. One moment.
Because I just feel like logistically, with the amount of like the ratio to trans people to cisgender
It's
people?
per capita. It's per capita. But this is great because I just started working on a brand new master doc that's far more organized than my old master doc, and now I get to use it. I'm excited. All right, 1 second. Let me scroll down to the violence section. Okay, here we go. Victimization rates. Transgender individuals experienced 86.2 victimizations per 1,000 persons compared to 21.7 per 1,000 persons for cisgender individuals. This is per the Williams Institute of Law, UCLA.
Does it disclose what type of violence they're talking about?
Here we go. Yeah, it says that transgender people are over 4 times more likely than cisgender people to experience violent victimization, including rape, SA, and aggravated or simple assault.
Okay.
I got the stats. I got the links all ready to go, guys. All ready to go.
Okay. I just feel like, personally, like where I live, with like, and obviously it's not the same for everywhere, but like I've seen people dislike someone because they're trans because they don't agree with it, because like, but I've never seen someone physically go after someone. And, like,
Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
yeah, no, I totally understand that. So my thing would be like, for you personally, like, how long does it take you to disclose that you have you ever, since you've transitioned, because when did you transition, if that's not too personal?
I started medical transition at about 33 years old. Social transition maybe a year before that.
Okay. So how many women have you dated since your transition?
Since I came out socially, I've dated one woman.
So how long did it take you, and you've only ever dated women since you've socially transitioned?
Yeah. To be clear, I'm asexual. I don't really date much at all. It's
Okay.
not really important to me.
So how many people have you like engaged with, I guess would be the better question for you then.
What do you mean by engaged?
Like, had any type of intercourse with?
0.
0? So then what would make you a lesbian at that point if you don't like
You
dating?
don't have to be intimate with someone to know you're a lesbian.
But if you're asexual and you don't like dating, then
So asexual is an umbrella term, and additionally, there are multiple types of attraction. First of all, there's intimate attraction and there is romantic attraction. So an asexual person can still experience romantic attraction, and additionally, these are umbrella terms, so there are identities that fall underneath them. I believe that I am probably demisexual, which means that I only experience sexual attraction when I'm first deeply romantically attracted to someone.
okay, and then I just want to say this, like, people in the comments are saying like that I'm getting really personal. So if this is
I'm
too
not worried
personal
about
for
it.
you,
I would
Okay.
tell you if it was. I'm not worried about it.
okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted to be sure I'm not overstepping.
You're good.
So, because I've only, like, so when you said asexual, like, I've personally only ever heard that term in biology when we're talking about cells being able to reproduce by themselves. So I think that, like, I'm a little bit confused on.
Sure, context matters. So yeah, asexual is a thing for cells. Asexual is a thing for other species out there. But when we're talking about human relationships, asexual means that you don't experience sexual attraction.
Okay. So you personally, like, you would never want to get married to anyone, or you would never want to date someone, really?
No, for me, there are circumstances where I would absolutely be interested in dating and even be interested in intimacy. But A, romance is not something that's even slightly important to me. And B, the idea of being intimate with people that I don't know very, very, very well. Like, if I'm not romantically attracted to someone, I'm not interested in being with them.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to, like,
No problem.
sorry.
Can I ask you a question, Rayleigh?
Yeah.
So going back to, you said you would feel lied to about, going on dates with somebody that has transitioned, how offended would you be if on a first date, someone asked you what genitalia you have?
I personally would not be offended at all, but I also don't think that's a question that, like, that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. Like, I'm more talking about, like, if someone completely, like, even if they have had the surgery, like, Adora, you've mentioned that you did have surgery. I just feel like I feel like it still is owed to the person for it to be disclosed, because that is a very big part of your life. And
Let's talk about that. Do you disclose that you're cisgender to your date?
no, because I feel like last night I was in your life and you were talking about the majorities, right? Like majorities of people. So my thing would be like, since I am in a majority, I don't necessarily feel as if it's needed for me to do that because it's assumed. And I feel like
Maybe stop.
what?
Maybe stop assuming.
So do you think that I should always act like? Then how do you think that I should go about it? Because I personally wouldn't date a trans man.
Don't disclose that you're cis. You don't owe that to anyone. And similarly, trans people also don't know that we are trans.
But personally, as a personal preference, I do not want to date a transitioned man.
And that's because you don't fully view him as a man. You said it yourself that you just feel like somehow it's owed, but it's not owed. You just think it's owed because somehow that you said that you're being lied to because you think that they're keeping something from you, which encourages me to think that you don't fully view trans men as men or trans women as women, but they are in fact women and men. It doesn't really you have a genital preference, right? But that doesn't mean that people owe you information about their lifestyle.
It's not necessarily a genitalia preference, but with what you said about me not viewing them as completely man or completely woman, I don't fully view them as completely man or completely woman.
Why?
I just feel like there's a disconnect. Like, for example,
That sounds like transphobia to me.
Yeah.
how is it transphobia?
You're invalidating our identities.
I'm just saying that I don't believe that you are completely a woman. Like,
Right. That would be transphobia. You are saying that my identity as a woman is wrong.
yes. No, not that it's wrong. Sorry, I shouldn't have said yes. No, I don't believe that your identity as a woman is wrong, but I personally don't, like, you and I will never be the same, ever.
Right. That's why we have the words trans and cis. There are differences between us. However, we are both women. I'm just as much a woman as you are.
How, like, I personally, like, I cannot agree with that you are as much as a woman as I am.
Okay. So what do you have that makes you more of a woman than me?
Well, I was born with different chromosomes than you.
Okay. Let's talk about chromosomes real quick.
Okay.
It is typical of a woman, of a female, to have XX chromosomes, right?
Mm-hmm.
What about women who are assigned female at birth, identify as women, but have XY chromosomes? Are they women?
They were born as a woman?
Assigned female at birth, identifies as a woman.
Then they would... Is that, like, has that actually ever happened? Like, personally, I'm just asking because I've never heard of that.
That's absolutely a thing.
Then yeah, I would guess if the doctor said that they were a woman, then yes, they would be a woman. But I feel like the hard thing is that you are aiming for the very few, very slim cases. And, like, obviously a lot of the time that is, like, I feel like most of the time you're basing your argument off of the very few, like, cases that ever happen.
I don't want to exclude people. That's the difference. Women who are born with XY chromosomes are still women. I'm not going to exclude them from womanhood.
Yeah. I feel like you're basing the argument on the very few people, and I get that you said that you don't want to exclude people. But at the same time, when I'm talking to you about 99% of trans women, you can't bring up the 99% of cisgender women, you can't bring up the 1% and
Why not?
base your complete argument off of that.
Why not? Are they not
Because that's
part
a
of our
very-
society as well?
They are, but personally, you're not in that situation and I'm not in that situation. So if someone...
I'm in a similar situation in that I am part of a very, very small percentage of women who are born atypically.
You're born what?
I'm part of a very, very small percentage of women who are born in an atypical fashion.
What does that mean? I'm so sorry.
It means that I am a woman who is born with a penis, and that is rare.
But that doesn't make her any less of a woman than you are.
So Adora, can I ask you this? And if it's too personable, you can completely tell me that, like, I can't ask this. But sorry, let me think. When you were raised by your parents, were you raised, not what you believed in, but were you raised as were you raised as a boy?
Sure, I was socialized to be a boy, yes.
Okay. So then I feel like, how long have you known that you were trans?
I didn't learn what it meant to be trans until my early 20s, but I had this strong, deep knowledge that I was a girl from my earliest memories.
Okay. So, what do you mean that you didn't know that what it meant to be trans? Because if you're
Right,
saying...
Nobody taught me about trans people. I thought that this knowledge that I had of myself meant that there was something wrong with me. I felt like boys can't be girls because no one taught me that trans people existed. I learned to be ashamed of that feeling and I hid it away. And I didn't learn what it actually meant to be transgender until my early 20s.
But you said that you didn't start transitioning until about 10 years later, correct? Because you didn't start transitioning until you were in your 30s, but you learned about it in your 20s.
I did make an attempt at transition in my mid to late 20s, but that failed due to lack of support.
I personally, it's hard to believe that, you went through your entire childhood. Where did you grow up, I guess? Can you disclose that?
East Coast.
East Coast? So, where you grew up, you did not hear about anyone being trans.
The only trans representation I ever saw was like an Ace Ventura Pet Detective, where there is a transgender woman who is presented as hyper masculine, but wearing a dress and makeup, and she is the punchline of a joke. She's like the main character ends up kissing her, and then finds out that she's a man, and then the main character fake vomits everywhere. And then I also saw Miss Garrison in South Park. That was the representation of trans people that I had. It was incredibly poor, incredibly transphobic representation, and always something to be mocked, and always something that was viewed as fake, as gross, as nothing that you would ever want to be or acknowledge yourself to be.
Also, in Ace Ventura, they make her undress and show off her genitals to prove she's a woman.
Jesus Christ, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really gross. The end bit, it's full on essay.
Okay, but my question would be is that when you were younger, when you started to get more confident with yourself and you were more confident with believing that you were a woman, why did you if you were so confident with yourself and you knew for yourself, why'd you let other people defer you away from that if you say that you knew that you were?
Because I'm part of society, and society has the ability to affect me.
But my question would be is that there obviously is a community of trans people, correct? And people that do support you.
Sure.
So why wouldn't you move into that group and just be like,
Because you don't get to just go apply for a found friend, for found family and be like, oh shit, this is my found family now. It takes a long time to put together your found family.
what's a found family? Like friends, basically?
Yeah, exactly. Friends who are accepting of you exactly the way you are.
Okay. But if you've known this since such a young age, as you're saying, then why didn't you start working to move, like, to change friend groups? Like, and obviously I know it's on...
First of all, we don't change gender. We acknowledge who we are. Second, no amount of transition is necessary to be valid in your identity. So I did not have to get breast implants. I did not have to get a vaginoplasty. I did not have to start HRT to be a woman. I didn't even have to start dressing the way that I dress now to be a woman. And second of all, I didn't even know these were options because no one taught me.
So you're saying, with what you're
There's a huge stigma around being trans. So coming out as trans, there's being out loud and proud comes with consequences. We are treated differently by society when we are out loud and proud.
So what you're saying is that if tomorrow I woke up and I felt like a man, I could transition with that, like, and I could still wear a dress, I could do whatever, and I could be like, if someone calls me a woman, then I could just be like, well, nope, actually, I'm a man.
Yeah, that's valid.
Wait, sorry, could you give me the scenario one more time? Sorry.
Like, if I wake up tomorrow and I'm like, well, I feel like a man today.
Yeah, no, that's not how this works. This is something that is persistent.
I agree with what
You may recognize over time, and you may one day have that aha moment. Because I had that aha moment in my early 20s, but that feeling had been persistent with me for decades. It's not something you just wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm a man now. That's not how it works. Gender fluid's a bit different. Gender fluid, the gender identity would be gender fluid, and gender fluid people do fluctuate typically on various days what their gender is, but the gender identity would still be persistent in that it is fluid.
a lot of trans people, they don't like typically, like Adora said, they don't just like wake up and decide to be trans. It's not a decision that you make. It's like more about like because of a lack of representation a lot of us had growing up, we didn't know what the term transgender meant. I didn't know what it meant until I was 12, but ever since I was 12, I'm 25 now, I've been a transgender person. But if you did, as a cisgender person, suddenly wake up tomorrow and you felt like you wanted to be a man, that would be valid, because it's not like you have had to have these experiences or feelings your whole life. Like, you know, how some people think that, you know, hating your body, having dysphoria is an essential part of being transgender. It's not. Like, if you want to experience with gender and change your pronouns or your name, or if you want to have people start identifying you as a man or as their brother, their son, I mean, you're like as your parents' son, whatever. If you wanted your parents to start perceiving you a different way, suddenly that would be valid, and you don't have to take hormones or do it like Adora said. You don't have to go through all those things in order to be perceived the way that you feel on the inside, because that's really what it is. When it comes down to, it's like these are internal feelings that we have, and we're allowed to portray it through, you know, external things, whether we decide to medically transition or not. Is up to each individual's own.
Yep.
I guess that just what really confuses me is that I personally, and obviously like I'm not trans, but I personally don't understand how someone can be born one way and raised like this, like born a woman, raised a woman, and then somehow they're just like, well, I feel like I'm a man. Like, I feel like that's just something that's like...
Really, you're never going to understand the trans experience, and that's okay. You're not transgender. You're not going to have our experience. And that is not a fault on you in any way, shape, or form. That's okay. Transgender people, this is typically a journey. Some of us know really right off the bat, and that's great. I'm envious of them. And some of us, it's a journey that takes a long time to understand. But recognizing that your gender is different than what everyone else is telling you, especially in a society that's built around cisgender people, is incredibly difficult and incredibly personal.
I think that my biggest thing would just be like, I don't understand how it's not like considered mental. So you're saying that it's something that's like you feel physically, like it's not mental.
Well, it's also a part of your psyche, your psyche. But obviously you have thoughts that correlate with your feelings because your feelings come from parts of your brain. However, you know how like when people put the stigma and the stereotype on trans people that we're somehow mentally ill, that's a completely separate thing. Mental illness doesn't really correspond with being transgender at all because it's not a mental illness condition. It's an identity. It's something completely separate.
But oh, that's such a cute cat. Really, couldn't it be like I don't get how you. I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. Sorry. Do you see why people do view transgenderness as mental illness, though?
I understand why people think that. They are, however, wrong. They are misinformed.
Yeah, a lot of it comes from like a lack of education. Like I have family that live in Mississippi, my aunts and my cousins and stuff, whereas I grew up in Chicago, I grew up in Illinois. So it's very liberal over here. People are very accepting of queer people, whereas in Mississippi, like I have cousins that don't talk to me because I'm transgender. So I understand that their mentality comes from the like lack of perception around them growing up. They maybe their parents or their friends or there's like kids that they grew up going to school with, they were transphobic, they were homophobic. So they're going to maintain that mentality throughout their life, and they're going to encourage. That's how this type of mentality gets spread, like how it spreads through generations, is through families encouraging their kids and their peers to think negatively of queer people and to not want them inside of spaces that they feel they belong in. But the whole purpose is to eradicate that and to encourage people to love and accept, like I mentioned earlier.
So then my question would be, is that, and if this is completely wrong, then y'all tell me, but technically wouldn't being transgender like be like mental then? Like a mental illness? And it's just like for some people.
Oh, really? Gender lies within your brain. Gender is psychological. There's the biological aspect is that it's your brain. It's biopsychosocial. So yeah, this is where it is. It's up in your head. Even your gender is in your head.
Can I text someone back really quick and then get back up? I'm so sorry.
Absolutely. You just don't drop. How are we doing, everyone? How's chat doing? I know we've been sub only pretty much the whole time, so I hope you guys are enjoying this. To those of you that want to participate but don't want to sub, I feel you can check out my Twitch account, Adorable Rainbow Fist on Twitch. Chat is open and free over there, but I am keeping this sub only largely to protect my mental health.
Do you need me to get off of the mic so you can let someone else in? I don't know if you have a limit on.
Oh, geez, no, you're absolutely good.
Oh,
okay. If you want, you can drop whenever you want.
Okay.
Hey, I'm back.
Okay. Please continue.
Someone did just drop those, so could you add another person with my same viewpoint so that it's not just me against all three of y'all?
I don't typically do that.
Could you do it, and then if it gets too chaotic, I'll drop immediately if you ask me to?
My approach to this is that transgender people are not given a fair shake out in the real world, so I don't feel any need to give transphobia a fair shake on my platform.
Okay, so you're still with the viewpoint that I am transphobic, correct? Do you believe that?
Am I a woman?
Not the same type of woman as me.
Sure. So you have some. I don't think that you have malicious transphobia, but you do have some transphobia to unpack.
Okay. Wait 1 second. Sorry, I need to text one more time. I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm back. I'm so sorry about that.
Okay, no problem.
So,
Thank you for the roses.
so you do see me as transphobic, though, correct?
You have transphobic ideology to unpack, yes. I don't think it's malicious transphobia, but you do have transphobia.
Okay, so what do you mean by that? Like, you mean that? Because, like, personally, I don't know how to say this in the correct way. Like, you are, like, you seem like a cool person, and, like, I'll talk to you, you know?
Sure, yep.
But, like, personally, this is going to sound terrible, and I know, like, hopefully you understand that I don't mean it is the way that I'm about to say it, but I don't see you as the same or equal to me as far as womanhood goes.
We are different, which is why we have the words trans and cis, but we are just as much, I am just as much a woman as you are. What would you say is the necessary condition for being a woman? What's a criteria that has to apply to the entire group?
I feel like it would be being born as a woman. Or a female, sorry. Because you see...
And what does that mean to you? What does being born female mean to you?
Personally, I'm not a doctor, so, like, I can't give you the criteria, so, but obviously doctors know what they're talking about, so...
But here's Sure, I understand what you're saying. Doctors don't test all your sex characteristics. They really only look at your genitalia. That's it. There's more to sex than just genitalia. So someone can have female genitalia and be a man. Someone can have male genitalia and be non-binary. Genitalia is... Sex is complex. It's not just this super simple thing that we all have this idea that it is.
But, like, you just... Okay, so do you see sex and gender as different? Like...
They talk about different aspects of the human experience. Biological sex refers to reproductive functions, and gender is biopsychosocial.
Okay, so what would the correct term... Okay, so for me, what is my sex and what is my gender? If I'm telling you that I identify as the way that I was born. Like,
if you are a cisgender woman, what that tells me is that you were assigned female at birth and that you identify as a woman.
Okay, so just for like asking purposes, you are a male who is a woman. Like, right?
Yep, I'm a male woman. Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I just need to, like, I've never, like, heard that viewpoint. Because I feel like with some, like, trans people, and obviously, like, you didn't just say this, but, like, with some trans people, it's like, people are like, I'm equal and I'm the same as you, even though I'm a cisgender, and, like...
Yeah, I'm just as much of a woman as you.
I don't...
And male has nothing to do with whether or not I'm a woman.
I feel like sex and gender, like, you don't think they correlate at all, but at the same time, like...
Sure, there's sex and gender do connect to an extent, but they don't always align nice and neatly the way that we have been taught that they do.
Okay, and then I also just want to say, like, I'm sorry for using the term equal. I don't want that to come off as me, like, I don't mean it as the way that it sounds like, I promise.
Yeah, I feel like it was, I didn't address it because I felt like it was just a poor choice of words.
Yeah, what would you say would be a better way for me to say that?
That we're not the same.
Okay, sorry, I did not mean to say it like that. But
Okay.
I feel like, would you agree with me if I said there are different, I guess, stages of being a woman with what you're saying? Like, personally, like, because you and I are not the same when it comes to womanhood.
Sure, that's why we use the terms cis and trans to describe our differences.
So would you say, like, I personally see you is less of a, sorry that sounds so bad, but like I see you as less as a woman.
That's bad. So there's a lot more similarity between us than there is difference, really. We're a lot more the same than we are different. And when I mentioned the difference between sex and gender, with sex being related to our reproductive functions and gender being psychosocial, did that make sense to you? Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that?
Sorry, can you repeat what you just said?
Yeah, does when I tell you the difference between sex and gender, sex being related to reproductive functions and gender being psychosocial, do you agree with that?
I mean, I'm pretty sure that those are the exact definitions. So yes, I do agree with you with that.
Okay.
But with my personal viewpoints, and like obviously I guess that it's wrong because like I've looked it up before and I know that like what I've looked up doesn't align with what I believe, so I guess that what I believe is wrong. But in my opinion, sex and gender are the same. Like I feel that
On what grounds are you saying that?
I think that you identifying as a woman, I'm not gonna misuse your pronouns, like I'll support whatever pronouns you want to use, but I personally still see you as a man.
Right. We've already established that. I'm asking you why you think that my definitions of sex and gender are wrong.
No, I think that yours are right.
But you just said that you think that sex and gender are the same.
That's just personally the way that I was raised, and I see female and woman as the same, and I see male and man as the same. I think that's the right terms.
Yeah, but I'm trying to get you to answer why. You've told me that you think that sex and gender are the same. Why are they the same?
I don't know. That's just the way that I see it. Like I don't really know what. Like why do you think that they're different? Sorry, I know that just turned around the question on you, but like I don't have a good explanation for that, so I would like to hear why you think that they're different.
Because the definitions I just gave you. Sex relates to your to your reproductive functions. Gender is psychosocial.
Like just because you have a mentality where you don't fully view her as a woman, that doesn't invalidate how she feels about herself.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not trying to say that it invalidates her how she feels about herself, but at the same time, I'm just saying what I believe, like what I personally see.
I know, but what I'm saying is that your opinion doesn't make her experience any less factual. So basically what I'm saying is that she's a woman. That's a fact. What you're saying is your opinion. And that's our whole point in like explaining that trans women are women, trans men are men, is because it doesn't matter how you see it. It just doesn't matter. It's not going to take away from the fact that she's a woman. She may not have grown up with the same conditions as you, but like I had mentioned earlier, like from her bones to the depth of her soul, she knows she's a woman. There's nothing you can do to change that. I understand that you were brought up and you were raised to believe that sex is the equivalent of one's gender, that genitals have to align with your gender. I get that. I get that probably your parents and people around you think that as well, but that's simply not the case. We've come to understand that. That is the case. I'm sorry, I misspoke. That is the case when it comes to cisgender people like yourself. You agree with what was written on your birth certificate, but that was predefined and decided for you by the government. And all these concepts and words and constructs that we use, those were also made up by other human beings. And if you Google the evolution of transgender people, there's proof of us existing and us being in like concepts and being talked about and us being real people since the Greek god era. if you take time to Google it, you can read about that and how we have existed for centuries. And so by saying that, I know you're not saying that we're not real and that our experiences aren't real. I know you're saying that you respect us and what we go through, but by saying she's not a woman, you're disrespecting her.
Yeah, I mean, I really like. I don't mean like Adora. I really hope that you do know that like I do respect you, but I just personally like, and it's not even the way that I raised because my parents. This is something that I've never really talked to them about.
Okay.
So I feel like it's more just like what I've learned on my own, I guess, and like.
So what are you trying to what why do you think that regardless of your perception that somehow like will change anything about the narrative? She's a woman regardless of how you view her, but we are trying to get you to see that there's just no point in invalidating transgender women by saying they're not women, because that's just unfortunate that like you think that just because she didn't grow up the same way that you did that somehow makes her less of a woman than you are. I get that, like, I'm trying to explain to you that your rigid perception of genitals aligning with gender is always going to skew your perception unless you start to see things differently. You start to open your mind up and realize that all humans have different experiences. It may be that there's a lot more cisgender people than transgender people, but we do exist. And that doesn't mean that what we feel is invalid. You may not be able to relate to it, but you could try to put yourself in her shoes and understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that my biggest thing is like all different types of people exist with all people that, and like people with like a bunch of different views and beliefs exist, and it's hard to be able to understand and validate how they feel. All that, like with all of them.
Okay, so I get that. It's hard to understand things. So that's okay. So the solution is you don't have to understand everything. Just respect the person in front of you. Validate the person in front of you. When I tell you that I'm a woman, believe me. Don't challenge me.
I'm not trying
I
to
don't challenge you.
What'd you say? Sorry. I didn't mean
I don't challenge cis people when they tell me they're a man or a woman. So cis people don't challenge trans people when we tell you who we are. Why do we have to defend who we are, but cis people don't?
I mean, honestly, I feel like that's the case because being cis is being the way that you were born, and it's being your natural self.
I am being the way that I was born. I am being my natural self.
Well, you've had surgery to change yourself, am I right?
I've had surgeries to make changes, but that doesn't make me. I didn't do that to become a woman. I already was one.
Then why'd you feel the need to do it?
I had gender dysphoria.
So, sorry, 1 second. Can I like gather myself really quick?
Yeah, no problem.
I think that my thing would be is the reason that as a cis person you're having to explain, you have to validate yourself because you are the sorry, I'm trying to think of how to say this. You have to validate yourself because you're not like
I'm a bit different.
what?
I'm a bit different because my existence isn't the norm.
I don't want to say it like that because like I feel like being what?
How else are you gonna say it? Why do I have to validate myself, but cis people don't?
Because cis people are the way, like I just said that, because cis people are the way they are naturally born.
Right, I'm the way that I was. I was born transgender. I didn't choose to be transgender. I wasn't made transgender. I was born this way.
I think you're
a lot of
talking about
things
like
how they were naturally born, though. Like everyone changes something at some point in their life. People get haircuts. Why is this different?
Wait, what did you just say?
You have to explain your haircuts. You have to justify your haircut.
No, but as a like, I just saw a comment that said this, and I like totally agree with that. What is confusing to you about me being a cisgender woman?
Nothing.
So then why do you feel the need? You just said, like, that why don't we have to validate ourselves? What would we need to validate?
Sherry,
Like, what can we explain?
there's also nothing confusing about being trans. We're telling you who we are. We're not asking you who we are. We're not asking you to describe who we are. We're telling you, point blank. It's this simple. I'm a woman. End of story. There's nothing to be confused about there. I'm a woman.
But to a lot of people, and people are allowed to have their own opinions, you aren't.
I think what you're talking about is like perception when it comes to the general public and society. And I think that, yeah, you're right. People are allowed to have their opinions. But the thing is that when people have transphobic mentality and they look at people like Adora or like myself, and they think that we aren't real transgender women, or in my case, also a real transgender man. Some people don't view me as that either because of the way that I look. I think that that's dangerous because it entices people to dislike you. And it's like, what are you disliking someone for their identity? And when it comes down to like you justifying the fact that you're cisgender to people, it's not that you have to justify that you're cisgender. People are going to perceive you the way that they want to perceive you. But the whole point of like encouraging people to just automatically go with they, them pronouns with everyone they meet, as opposed to just assuming, is so that we can get people to stop making assumptions. Because people don't look at you and think, like, I think that you think people, I mean, maybe people in your area, they look at you and they see you as a girl, right? But it has nothing to do with your genitals or anything like that, because they're not seeing what's in your pants. They're just seeing how you portray yourself as a feminine person. And because of society's rigid perceptions on gender, on their portrayal of like how they dress, fashion, etc., that's why they might deem someone who looks like you cisgender in their mind. But it doesn't mean that that's what people should be thinking. So just because it happens and because people are entitled to their perception or their opinion, that doesn't mean that it's what should be happening. That's why we encourage people to look at people like Adora and myself as the people. I mean, like if you see me or you see Adora in the streets and you don't know what our gender is or what our pronouns are, that's the whole point of asking. You ask. It really doesn't take much to just be kind and to ask. And it doesn't take much for you to perceive people like Adora and myself as women, because we are women, you know, like we're girls. You don't have to look at us and see us a type of way because you want to. I know it's like, you feel like because that's how like science is or whatever, but science has advanced and it also has lacked the understanding and the justification of trans people, because like I told you, we've existed for centuries.
I think that my thing is like you were saying that you want, when people see me, they shouldn't assume that I'm a cis woman, right? Didn't you say that at one point?
Yeah, I mean, they shouldn't automatically assume what's in your pants based off of how you look. They should ask you what your pronouns are, but you know, obviously we live in a society where that doesn't always happen, unfortunately. But that's what we're trying to get away from, is people making assumptions based off the way people look. Because it's not so black and white, you know? There's so many different kinds of transgender people in this world, and also gender identities, because not all gender identities align with the transgender concept.
So then my thing would be is that at that point you're asking the entire world to change the way that everyone has been taught to live, because like
people have been taught incorrectly. They've been taught wrong.
I mean, we've oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, so yes, I am asking society to open their damn minds and stop being exclusionary.
Well, like when you were younger, Adora, were you raised, sorry, I'm trying to think of like how to word this. Were you raised that when you saw someone who looked like me, they were a female? I'm assuming that that's like, right? Like when you saw someone...
I was raised to believe that there are men and there are women, and that you are born, that females are women and males are men, and that's that. That's how I was raised. I was taught incorrectly.
Okay, so yes, you were raised to where like if you saw someone that looks like
You've muted yourself. I
Sorry.
want to wrap this question.
Sorry. If you saw someone,
yes, Rayleigh. So now would be the time to say anything.
what'd you say?
Yeah, I would like to wrap this conversation up so I can bring up another guest before my live ends. So
Okay.
now would be the time to make your final statement.
I'm just gonna go ahead and get off. I feel like I've said what I need to say. Thank you.
Right, you have a good one. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you too.
Bye. Okay. Damn, music getting the gifts. Damn, that was cute.
Oh my God. Thank you all so much.
Okay, please keep tapping that screen, guys. We have at least 34 more minutes. I'm pretty high energy. And when I have a panel, I'm less likely to run out of emotional energy by the end of my life. So yeah, I got a pretty good amount of energy. We're going to go for at least another 34 minutes, though my emotional energy can just tank in a second sometimes. I'm going to bring on the next guest right now. If you are a follower of mine, Grayskull in chat. And don't forget, if you subscribe to my Twitch, not only do you also get access to the Best Friend Squad Discord, but you also get access to my live replays. So if you missed part of this live, you missed some of my older lives, you want to watch them on your own time, subscribe to my Twitch, and you can do that with your Amazon Prime account. So that way, if you're already paying for Prime, you can subscribe to my Twitch at no extra charge to you. Hello, Claire Bear.
Hello,
How old are you, please?
I'm 46.
46. Fantastic. And am I a lesbian?
Yes, I think you are.
Awesome.
The reason why I wanted to join is that I've been part of a few lives discussing this topic over the past 24 hours. And I think there was one of the lives that I went into which said that if you don't adopt the term cis, you're transphobic. And I'm just gonna give an example. By the way, I do adopt the term cis, and I have no problem with it. It's an adjective that describes the fact that I was assigned female at birth and I identify as a woman. But in the UK, we're a very small island. And within England in particular, it's very regionalised. And there are certain regions that are still very homogeneous in terms of the population. And I'm from the north of England. And when I went and had a look at the census reports, the trans community are very, very minority. It's a huge minority. So when I discussed this topic with my fellow peers, etc., they have an uncomfortable status with adopting the term cis because they said, but I'm a woman and they're trans women. And I said, yeah, but if you were to put everybody into a room and said, right, there's two areas you can go to. If you're a woman, go over there. And if you're a trans woman, go over there. I said, the trans woman can go into either of those areas. They're a woman, but subcategory, they're a trans woman. And I said, you know, it's the problem that I think we have in the UK compared to America is that I'm not going to say necessarily progressively behind, but we're still behind in terms of the representation of different genders within our population. So it's just the fact that I don't think it's that people are transphobic. I think they're trans ignorant by proxy. They just haven't come across the need to identify themselves as cis, so they have a problem adopting it. And it's a really interesting to come into these lives because you get so much education from them, which I think is so important to ensure that you're not just going to have the viewpoint that, for example, that you can't be lesbian because you're a trans woman. Because I think it stems from certainly within certain regions in the UK that we're still, the trans community, for whatever reason, and I don't know, but for whatever reason, is still very much massively unrepresented in the minority.
Sure. Yeah, we're underrepresented. Sorry, I missed the question. If there was a question.
I think the question was just mainly that I think, like I said, it's not actually a question, it's more a statement, so I do apologise for taking over when I should have had a question. It was more just the fact that in one of the lives that I was in, there was an absolute categorical viewpoint. If you don't adopt the word cis, you're transphobic. But I think actually there's a second option for that, in that you're probably just trans ignorant by proxy, and you don't know enough information in order to be able to be comfortable adopting the term cis. But it doesn't necessarily mean that there is an undertone of hate for it to be classed as a phobic. Does that make sense? I think it's ignorance, but it's not necessarily driven by a hate.
Sure, but I don't think that transphobia requires hate.
I totally agree. But I think certainly in certain populations, they're just, in terms of transphobia generally, I think people have a problem with it because they don't fully understand it, and certainly in some of the conversations that I've had with people, the terms "it's unnatural," etc. And I'm like, you've got absolutely no idea. It's like me telling a cis man that they can't identify as a man anymore. I said, trans people haven't chosen this. They don't choose to be anyway. I said they were born a gender, but were assigned a different sex at birth.
Right, yeah. It's a term that we only use in very specific situations, and it doesn't invalidate the fact that people are still men, women, etc.
So actually, I do probably have a question for this, and then, like I said, it's something that I'm learning and constantly learning and educating myself on. Do you think at birth we shouldn't assign gender?
I mean, I'm okay with parents gendering their infants, their toddlers, etc. I think the best practice would be to make sure that kids know that trans people exist. We can just teach them the basics that sometimes thought was a girl is actually a boy, and that's perfectly okay. Mm-hmm. And if they come to their parents later on and say, "Hey, I think I'm not the gender that you thought I was," that's a perfectly okay thing. We should be ready to embrace and accept them. But I think that gendering infants, toddlers, etc., is a totally okay thing to do.
And just leading on from that, and this is just really just as a remark, do you think that we should relabel the term gender reveal?
I don't like. I think gender reveal parties are ridiculous. And they're hardly the worst thing in the world, but they're pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because I think what a lot of people struggle with is defining the difference between sex and gender.
Yep, I would definitely agree with that. So the people struggle with the difference.
But I'll jump off so somebody else can have an opportunity. But I just want to say I appreciate things like this. It does help educate people.
I did want to bring up the live you mentioned before. Just before
go.
Sorry,
say that again.
With those live streams, people that are ignorant when they go on, they'll ask questions, and then when they learn what cis means, they're like, "Oh, I understand," and then they'll get off. But transphobic people will typically get mad, and that's where the topic comes from.
Right, I see.
It's not calling ignorant people transphobic. It's saying that if you don't learn, or if you get mad, then you're transphobic.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with that. I think maybe the one that I had popped into, they were maybe just a little quick to not be as explanatory and understanding that some of the people in there were trying to learn and understand, but I guess maybe they also came across slightly defensive in their approach. But I guess what I was saying was, as an observer watching it, I could kind of see to say, this person just is actually uninformed about the trans population. And that probably, in terms of where we live in the UK, is because there is not a huge trans community. So there is, generally the term male, the term man and woman, 9 times out of 10, you would automatically assume that was cis.
Claire Bear, the percentage of trans people in the UK is approximately the same as it is anywhere else.
Okay.
Trans people are rare. The issue is that we don't have good enough education. We don't have good enough representation. We need more visibility in media, and we need K through 12 queer education in schools.
Yes.
Also,
Can I ask another question? Sorry.
Trans people can typically tell the difference between ignorance and like someone asking genuinely and someone asking to be transphobic. Like we can tell. It's pretty obvious.
Just one question about America as a whole, and this is my complete ignorance, so I do apologize. Do you have Catholic faith schools where people go through the system in a schooling system which is faith-based?
What does that mean?
Sorry, so the school that would be classed as a faith school and would be classed as a Catholic denomination, and the education system would have that undertone.
We absolutely have Catholic schools in the United States.
Oh, okay, yeah, because we have a lot of faith schools in the UK, a lot, and a lot of people send. I'm one of them. My children go to faith schools, but we are not Catholic.
And a lot of those types of schools will teach, like I don't want to say old timey, but they'll teach like previous knowledge of sex education, which doesn't include queer people at all. And a lot of those Catholic and Christian children will grow up in closets because of that. So we encourage, school, those types of like religious schools to be more accepting. But unfortunately, in the U.S., we haven't completely been able to reform sex education for high school and middle school students. I mean, sex education in the U.S. is actually taught I remember going as young as like the 5th grade. I don't know when y'all went, but that's when I went. So I feel like queer people should be included in that because being queer is not a dirty thing. I think that when it comes down to what you were saying earlier, about transphobia versus trans ignorance, it's still transphobia because basically like they're not like afraid of transgender people in the way that they are afraid of spiders, but they are afraid of the new concept. Their minds are refusing to wrap their mind around it. That's why it's a phobia no matter what.
Yeah, actually I would totally agree with that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it was the same. My daughter's just gone through sex education. She's 11. We call it year 6 here. I don't know what that equates to in your grades in America. But so they've recently gone through sexual education. Like I said, she's in a faith school. And she came home with some of the material, and it clearly just said on the some of the material that there are 2 genders. And I was like, wow. Yeah. So I think you're right. I think it's deep-rooted into early education, and that's where it needs to change in order to be able to ensure that as adults then we are educated and therefore can accept.
All right.
But thank you so much. I do really appreciate it. I love popping into these sorts of things, but I'll drop out now. But yeah, I am. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you. You have a good day, Claire Bear.
You too.
Bye. Guys, I just want to say we've had some A+ conversations today. Like, holy shit, this has been some of the highest quality conversations we've had. I've really only had significant issue with just one guest, and that was the person who came into Tone Police. That was it. But yeah. If y'all
I think that last conversation just proved them wrong about the spreading hate thing, because that was really educational.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you to everyone for sending the gifts. They're hugely appreciated. This is what I do for my full-time job, so it makes a huge difference to me. But please remember, guys, if you have to choose between buying a coffee or sending me a gift, always choose the coffee. I do not want anyone stretching their bank accounts for me, but the gifts are very, very much appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Are you staying up or?
Oh, I thought you said that wait, are you staying on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll stay on.
Yes. Lord Saul, I'm just going to be clear here. I'm not going to bring you up. I have 15 requests. You've already been up before. So I'm going to try to focus on new people. So Lord Saul, I will not be bringing you up. All right. Is that why my numbers went down, guys? Because you guys thought I was leaving? I ain't going anywhere. What are you talking about? And don't forget, you can also watch me over on. Don't forget, you can also watch me over on Twitch. It comes with a cat cam. Right now, we have Chloe in the spotlight, and I've decided that that cuterus will be on display when there are no cats. Adorable Rainbow Fist on Twitch. You can see cuterus and Chloe. How much longer will I be live? A minimum of 20 minutes, depending on how much energy I have. I may go longer. Hope you're doing okay today. I am, Freak. Thank you so much. I feel like I could probably get banned for saying your name.
Hello.
Nardo, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
How old are you, please?
I'm 22.
Fantastic. Am I a lesbian?
No.
Why not?
You are what I would describe as a cross-dressing straight biological male.
I'm a crossdresser. All right. So I don't deny that I am likely genotypically male, meaning my chromosomes are probably XY. So sure, I am male. Why does that mean that I can't be a woman?
Because, well, we need to talk. You claiming the title of a lesbian would be under the presumption that you are already a female who then has, who likes other females, but you're not essentially a female, so you can't take that claim. That's not for you to claim. If you was to say that you're, I don't know.
Female refers to biological sex. Like when we're talking scientifically, female refers to biological sex. Woman refers to your gender. Gender is psychosocial. It's not related to your genitalia or anything like that.
Yeah, and so I would say being a lesbian, right? You would need to. Well, I feel that's more biological for you to claim this title of you being a woman who likes other women under this hood of being a woman, not even just a woman, just being I would say being a female. So that's not everyone can just claim that they're a lesbian.
I didn't follow. I'm sorry.
Like, I can't just claim I'm lesbian. I can't just claim.
You can't just claim you're lesbian. No. How do you identify? What's your gender? Are you a man, a woman, non-binary?
I'm male, man.
Okay, so you're a man. So yeah, you can't be a lesbian. You're a man.
No, but I wouldn't say that's just because of my gender. No, I would say just because of my biological gender as well.
So in your situation, like you feel like what they put on your birth certificate is accurate, right? But in Adora's situation, she doesn't feel like what was on her birth certificate is accurate, right? And so she's not a cross-dresser because she's dressing the way that she feels comfortable dressing as a feminine person. I don't know if you resonate with the feminine term, Adora, but yeah, as a feminine person, she's dressing the way that she feels comfortable and that aligns with how she wants to wear fashion. I think when you're thinking about people, there's people who cross-dress. Sure, there's people like yourself who think that they feel like men and they think the gender they were assigned at birth, they feel like that aligns with who they are, but they still might wear a dress, but they're not women, they're still men. But those are different kinds of people. That's not in Adora's situation. Adora is a woman. That's why she doesn't have to wear dresses, but she wears them because it's what she wants to do,
The issue is, right, I feel like we've already given Adora the benefit of the doubt by allowing her to be called trans, right? And now taking the hoodie of being a lesbian, that's a whole different story now, because that's under the presumption that she's already established as a female.
So, to get to the bottom of this, we have to start at the bottom. You're not even under the impression that I'm a woman, right?
Correct.
We can't determine if I'm a lesbian or not if we can't even agree on whether or not I'm a woman. So what does a person have to have in order to be a woman, according to you?
I believe being a woman or being a male, it's not a choice thing. It's what you was assigned at birth. It's that simple. If you was born with XY chromosome.
So what about the dozens and dozens of cultures before us that recognize 3 or more genders? Were they just wrong?
Say again.
There are, we can look throughout human history and see dozens of cultures, hundreds of cultures probably even, that have recognized 3 or more genders. Thank you so much, Siren. Thank you so much, 8-month subscriber.
Oh, so you're talking about all cultures that have recognized these different genders.
Yeah, more than just men and women.
I mean, you have cultures who think it's tradition to cut off their own genitals as a sacrifice to the gods. Like, it's not all cultures were mentally.
Are you trying to tell me that that cultures that recognize 3 or more genders are? I'm not even going to say the word.
I'd say mentally, not all mentally dead. Not all cultures were doing things that would today appear. Well, I mean, to anyone, it would appear mentally insane. Like,
so my point is that look throughout human history and see evidence of cultures that have recognized 3 or more genders. So that is. Hang on.
Let me just be more specific. Sorry, I mean, like, let's say cannibalism in some cultures that's normal, but
yeah, I find it highly insulting that you are comparing these cultures to cannibals.
No, but I'm just trying to exaggerate. Like, I'm just saying, not all cultures
let's not go there.
Sure.
I'm from one of the cultures that historically recognized more than 3 genders before colonization.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure, but I'm just saying not all cultures are all mentally, I'd say, mentally sane, like in their traditions and so on and so forth. So in the case of cultures with different genders, I would just see that as no different to them not being mentally sane.
I mean, sometimes calling cultures not mentally stable, that's a symptom of colonization and a way to eradicate culture. So maybe don't do that.
Yeah. No, because you have some beautiful cultures out there. I'm not. Let's not do that. But there's some cultures which I believe
that is literally language that has been used to describe Maori people, my people, to justify eradicating the culture.
All right. So I'll give an example of like cannibalism. Let's say some cultures who date their own daughters. You know, there's different. Not all cultures, I would say, have practices that are normal or would seem sane, and that's just what I'm, saying. I'm not disrespecting other cultures. No, I'm just saying there are some which we can all, like I say, agree in general, which are just mentally insane.
I think you're talking about something a little bit different than what identity is really about, and about like community and culture regarding LGBTQ2SIA plus people, because like I think like I get where you're saying that like there's certain groups of people, like there's groups, like there's extremist groups that do things that aren't acceptable, but the LGBTQ2SIA plus people, we're not extremists. We're just living our daily lives every day. And it's not mental illness because it has nothing to do with depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, PTSD. Of course, you can be depressed regarding being queer because of society, because maybe you don't have access to the healthcare that you need, et cetera, or because your family doesn't accept you. But at the end of the day, being queer does not cause mental illness. It has nothing to do with that, which I think that's what you were asking about, like, or saying that it is the case. But
I mean, you're making the presumption that being, having more genders in a culture is not extreme. I'm not. I would say that it is, though. You can't give me this hoodie of, oh well, in today's society it's not extreme. I also see it as extreme. I would still see it as a mental illness, but that's me. That's in my culture. That's how we would see it.
Right. I understand. And there are a lot of countries and states and places where people like yourself exist. Your mentality exists, but it's dangerous because it's false. The way you view us is false. And the reason for that is because although there may be more people like you than there are people like me and Adora, we do exist. And we are human just like you. So do we not deserve rights?
I mean, I'm not saying you don't. Listen, if you guys wanna, think it's each their own. What the way that I see it in general, you can. I'm not gonna. I don't think you guys should be not allowed to change what you identify as. That's not an issue, but I'm just
Not
saying.
allowed to change what we identify as. Why?
No, I don't see an issue. I don't see an issue with it. Me personally, that's not the thing. That's not my thing. But it's like.
You're talking about introducing more gender, like are you talking about the fact that there are a lot of genders out there? Like, what are you talking about?
I'm just saying there's levels to it, and there's certain things where we should just draw the line on, like what we've granted already. We've granted transgender people, if they want to identify as a woman, by all means, so be it. But let's say being a lesbian now, we can't just give you everything now, because there's certain things
You're not giving us this, okay? This is not something you grant us. I am a woman, I am a lesbian, and I don't need your permission.
But then, what about women? Okay, what about the biological females who are actually lesbian? It's like, how are we supposed to distinguish them? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not really fair to them.
Why is it not
I'm
fair?
a biological female who's a lesbian, and I stand with my trans lesbian sisters, so maybe don't use me to justify that.
So then we're saying anyone can be. I feel like it takes away what it means to be a lesbian, though, at the same time. We're taking away meanings from word. It's essentially what we can.
What are we taking? What are we taking from cis women?
Well, you're taking away what it means to be a lesbian now, because if you're saying that you
What
are
am I
a
taking away
lesbian,
from what it means to be a lesbian?
second,
What am I taking from what it means to be a lesbian?
yeah, you're taking away the meaning of what a lesbian is. Example, me, I can, if you're, by your definition, right, of, by what you're doing, I can say I'm a lesbian. If I just, let's say, if I just one day decided, okay, I feel like I'm a woman, right? I guess I already like girls, so that's not changed. I heard that looks like I'm a lesbian. It's like, I would say I'm a trans, if anything, I would be a transgender male who likes girls. That's why I see it. I won't say I'm a lesbian though, because I feel like it's for the biological females who like
You're not
females.
giving me examples of what I'm taking from either womanhood or being a lesbian.
Say again?
You're not giving me examples of what I'm taking from either women or from lesbians.
Yeah, you're taking away. Well, I would say you're taking away something that is deep to them sexually, like the one thing that they have as because not being a lesbian, that could be an uncomfortable.
Nardo,
all right.
Being a lesbian is not inherently sexual. There are asexual lesbians.
Well, I mean, that's a sexual preference, so that's what I mean by like sexual. But I'm saying, right, that is something special to them, in most cases. And
what about asexual lesbians?
Say again?
What about asexual lesbians who have no interest in intimacy?
Asexual lesbians who have no interest in intimacy. Well, even for them, it's still they're still females who like females, but just don't want to have sexual intimacy with them. That's still I don't see an issue with that, because they're still biological females, so they can associate themselves with this title lesbian. But you're a male, biological male who likes girls, which is essentially a straight man, essentially, right? I'm just talking. If we go to the biological part, and you're claiming now to be a lesbian, so it's like you're taking the presumption of a woman, a female, and then on top of that, so now you actually like girls too. So it's a lot, man. I don't know. It's a lot.
No, I have no interest in girls. Jesus Christ. Okay.
I'm confused. You know I like girls, though. So what is that? So then you're not lesbian.
Nara, what would you say to a cisgender lesbian who is attracted to transgender women?
A cisgendered lesbian who is attracted to transgender woman. I don't know. I just say that they're straight. I would still call them straight.
Who's the one that's taking lesbian away from people?
Who's the one that's taking lesbian?
You literally just told lesbians that they're not lesbian.
No, I told you you're not lesbian.
No. You just told cisgender lesbians that they're not lesbian. Because there are cisgender lesbians that are attracted to transgender lesbians.
I'm just trying to get confused. Let me get it straight. A transgender lesbian, though.
Cisgender means that you're assigned sex at birth and your gender identity align.
Okay. I'm lost. I'll be honest. I'm very lost right now. Ask you a question again. Let me see if I may have got it wrong. Sorry.
So a lesbian who is assigned female at birth identifies as a woman and is exclusively attracted to women, but she is also attracted to transgender women. What would you say her sexuality is?
Well, she's attracted to transgender woman, and she's a cisgendered lesbian.
Yep.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, I would. I don't know, because that's a male though. She's attracted because essentially she's attracted to someone who is a biological male. So I wouldn't say she's a lesbian. I would say she's straight. Like what?
You're the one who is taking taking lesbian away from people, not me.
How so?
You're literally telling lesbians that they're not lesbian. That's not me doing that. That's you doing that.
But how would I be doing? No, but if by definition, right, someone is that is you have a cisgendered female, so a biological female, having an interest in another biological male, that is straight. That's a straight female.
I didn't hear what you said. I heard a bunch of banging in the background.
Yeah. Sorry, you have a biological female in that case having an interest in another biological male, so they would be straight.
Can I provide some perspective? Well, so like in Adora's case, there's different kinds of transgender women, right? So I was assigned female at birth, but I lived as a man for over a decade, and now I identify as a man and a woman. Would you say that a woman who is attracted to me, even though I'm a transgender woman, just because like you're saying that she's not, her lesbian identity isn't valid, even though even though I'm a transgender woman, I was assigned female at birth. You're saying because I identify as a transgender woman, her sexuality in terms of being a lesbian isn't valid. Like, why do genitals have to determine whether or not someone resonates with an identity? Why do you think in your mind that genitals, gender, why is it all the same thing to you?
I mean, I'm a tone with what I would say is reality, right? And if I was to see someone who is let's say yourself, you said you're a transgender woman, and you said if another woman was to take a liking to you, I would see that as a biological thing where a man and a woman like one another, which is totally normal. And I don't know, it's like it's what is straight. It's just how can I see it as any other thing that is straight? That is a straight couple, well, that would be a straight thing to do.
Well, the way that you see it doesn't mean that determines how it is. Like
you're the one who's inserting
biologically it is correct.
Tiffany B88, thank you so much for subscribing. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
It's like we just need to think about terms being. I feel like we need to understand what these terms are there for in reality. What does everyone know? When we think of lesbian, what does everyone think in general, oh yeah, that is another woman, another woman who likes another woman. That's how we think. But if you're now saying, oh well, me as a male, if I ever wanted to become, if I felt like a woman at any time, I can now feel like I don't know, change this, right? Change
Okay, but
my
do you notice there how you said a woman who
confusing.
likes another woman, not a pair of genitals who likes another pair of genitals? Because it's about gender, not sex.
I'm sorry. Say again.
When you said it's about women who like women, you said it's women who like women, not genitals who like genitals, because it's about gender and not sex.
No, I'm just saying. I see it as sex, and that's what it boils down to. Like, I don't. You can try to say, oh, there's identities and all these things, but whether I see these things as what they are, I just see. Well, I would just see another biological woman with another biological male, and that's on. Well, that's on the inside. On the outside, it may appear, oh, this is a transgender woman with another cisgender woman. That's on the outside, with all the flashy stuff, the makeover, the show. But biologically, they would be able to have children, right? And when you think of lesbian, you won't think of someone who is two women that are able to have children. It doesn't, you know what I'm saying? It takes away the meaning of a lesbian. It's like, it's a burden at the same time, low-key being a lesbian, because you're taking on something that you're not able to have children as lesbian at the same time.
I'm a lesbian and I have a biological child, so that's just inaccurate.
No, I'm saying two females, two biological females cannot have a child.
But they can though.
Let's try to be realistic in this current
I am
moment.
being realistic. They can have a child.
You're telling me a female can have a child with another female?
Yep.
Also,
See, but biology is like debatable in that sense. Like what you've come to understand and what you've come to know about science isn't necessary. I'm not saying it's not completely false, but I'm not saying it's not true either. Because if you think about it, a lot of science is based off of scientists who existed, centuries ago. So our understanding of humans has evolved. Our understanding of gender and sex and what it means to people and how they feel in their bodies, it has evolved. So like, just because you're, like good in your body and you feel what they wrote on your birth certificate is accurate, there's other people out there like myself who challenge that. And I'm like, well, they decided that for me. I didn't get to choose. I didn't get to choose what I was going to be called or what my pronouns were going to be from birth. So you have to, as a human being, recognize that I am telling you that's a real experience for me. Even though they put female on my birth certificate, I know that I was born a man because I never, ever felt like a little girl. So, like, it's like you, by saying that, like, lesbians can't, that a transgender woman can't be a lesbian, you're invalidating her experience as a human being. Do you know what I mean?
no, yeah, but you're invalidating what it means to be lesbians for biological females who are lesbians who have.
Okay, but you keep saying that, but I'm a biological female and I'm a lesbian and I'm telling you not to?
I mean, that's
Like, you're not a
I mean,
you're not a
I would say
biological
that's
female and you're speaking over people who are telling you that it's not accurate.
I mean, there would be a
You're not
bias.
use that as an argument.
I would say there would be a bias in this case. I wouldn't, subject myself to your view as a lesbian person, because I would say, for the sake of the debate, you would obviously concede. Not concede. You try and make it seem like I should concede because of your personal experience. But what I'm saying is, for most lesbians, right? One of the things about being a lesbian, one of the big things which I feel like is kind of a burden, is that the fact that they're unable to have children, and that's what really makes them stand out and why it's kind of a big deal for them. But a biological...
Again, I have a biological child and I'm a lesbian, so that's not an argument either.
But that's it. Are you saying that you had a biological child with another biological female?
No.
So then what are you talking about? What's your point?
But what we're trying to figure out is like, why would it matter if a cisgender woman has a biological child with a transgender woman? Why does that make it any less of a lesbian relationship just because she can give birth? It's like it kind of like, again, it just goes back to your transphobic mentality, is that you don't view transgender women as women, but no matter what, a transgender woman is a woman regardless of how you view it.
I mean, again, if you want to associate a male and a female having a child and still be able to say, well, they're still lesbians, right? Then I would just say, what's the point in us using words for anything at this point if words don't mean anything? It doesn't mean anything to be a lesbian from the seams, because for me, my understanding of what it means to be a lesbian is you're taking on this, you're taking on a liking to a gender which you will be incapable of having biological children with this person, right? That's one of your burdens, but you're taking this on just because of how much you like said gender. And it's like anyone can, it doesn't mean anything at this point, because even I could be lesbian at one point if I wanted to. It's like,
no, I'm going to wrap this up here.
But anyways, yeah, that's my point. But
you have a good one. Right.
Sure thing.
Okay. It is the end of the live for real now, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the gifts. I appreciate you all. Mel's live. We're going to do a Mel raid, guys. Mel, Mama,
Hi.
Retrans daughter. Thank you, Momless. Thank you, Music by October. Yeah, I appreciate you guys both so much. You guys are both welcome to the panel anytime. My name is Zenith. It's been a while since I've seen you. Thank you for the rose. I appreciate you. All right. Mel raid. Ants in the chat, guys. Not a... No, don't write Adora raid. Just put ants in the chat. Ants in the chat for Mel, Mama, the Friend's daughter. See you all later. Bye.